hitting the go live button right now. All right, the button is hit. Welcome, everybody, to the Xbox 2 podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Randall Thor19, the man with the million. And with me, as always, my co-host, Jez Corden of Windows Central. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, pal. Pretty busy week. Like, I literally remember saying to you at the start of the week, oh, man, there won't be much to talk about this week. Like, we struggle for topics to talk about. And then Microsoft pulled one out, right? right towards the end of the week.
Well, that was you literally yesterday when I'm like, we doing the podcast tomorrow? And you were like, yeah, but what are we going to talk about? And I'm like, I don't know. We'll come up with something like we always do. And then today, Microsoft's just like, hey, guys, that PlayStation game,
everything.
The game that's, never been on Xbox, that baseball game, the only baseball game in town, yeah, you can basically play for free on our platform while the PlayStation users have to pay full price. And that just kind of really set the mood today on Twitter. The reactions and the memes have been amazing. I'm just sitting back and just soaking it all in and like loving every single second of it. But we will, because we have a lot to say on it. I think you have a lot to say on the matter. I have a lot to say on the matter. I'm sure the chat is going to love it. It's probably going to be on fire. So welcome, everybody, to the Xbox 2 podcast. Just want to shout out a few people here. We got Lethal Papa and the Indie Gamer. A couple mods in there, always keeping the chat clean and rid of trolls. We got Fuzzy Belvedere. We got Pong So. We got Punkadish. We got Eddie the Psycho. We got Gunstar, General C, Emperor Zergi, Robbie. I'm sure James Shields is probably listening as well. Killantis. Thank you guys for tuning in on a Friday as my phone is ringing. Of course it would. Why wouldn't it? Hey, Jess, why don't you say something to people so I'm going to mute my mic while it rings.
No. Oh, man. This is just so typical. I don't even have the chat open. Rand puts me on the spot like this every time. That's what happens when we're doing a live show. I don't know why Rand can't just, ignore.
Never mind. See, but it only it stops ringing for a couple seconds. I know it can be annoying. I actually had sometimes my dog, which you guys have seen Shakespeare, really big dog, English Mastiff, like 190 pounds, right? When he stands up on his hind legs, he's as tall as me, and I'm 6'2", and he's very territorial. So when people come by the house, especially dogs and the mailman, he barks. And sometimes you can hear him bark in the podcast. And I actually have gotten messages on Xbox Live and in the comments being like, hey, dude, can you shut up your dog? I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, dude. Like, when I make my videos, I try not to record, like during it. So if he barks while I'm making a video, I'll obviously throw out that take. But, man, it's kind of hard to control a 200-pound dog. If he wants to bark, he's going to bark. You know what I mean?
Good boy.
Yeah. Shout out to Aaron.
We need dog videos on Twitter later.
Yeah. Shout out to Aaron. He says Xbox saved us $130 in the last 30 days on Outriders and MLB. That's right. Game Pass is truly looking like a steal. And the PlayStation Slave 3.0 says Halo getting delayed later this year. You going to be salty? Oh man. Well, I appreciate you giving me a bunch of money so I can read off that stupid comment. Appreciate it, though. We got Witta basically saying, Rand and Jez just happened to be here. When do the dorm fridges go live? And another week on another Xbox 2. And Rand can't afford a porch on the Super Chats, but he can't afford the insurance. What % do you get on Super Chats? 70%. Google takes 30% of everything for Super Chats. So, yeah, they take more on the ad revenue for regular videos, though. But hey, Halo getting delayed since people fell for that. That's also going to be a topic because a certain media outlet out there, man, they really held an L. Amateur journalism hour out here in these gaming journalist streets, huh?
Yeah, that was pretty. I'd be pretty mortified if that was me.
Like, what if Windows Central, like, what if you're sleeping, that stuff comes out, and someone who works for you or works at Windows Central literally tweeted that out and wrote an article about it? Would you be embarrassed?
I'd be raging, but this is why I don't let a lot of Windows Central staff have access to the Twitter account, because I want Let's make sure nothing like that could possibly happen. And at least if it does happen, then it's just my fault, you know. So like, man, I literally said on the 31st of March to everyone in window on our team, tomorrow's April Fool's Day. Please keep an eye out. We don't want to be one of those sites that get caught out. I literally said that. And then the next day, I saw a load of stuff. It wasn't just Kotaku. It was like, man, there was tons of websites that fell for April Fool's jokes. Oh man, it's just so embarrassing. It literally takes like a second to check a source, especially when it's something major like that. You know, that's like the kind of thing you don't want to get wrong.
No, you definitely don't want to get wrong at all. Like, I would be embarrassed. Like, I always try to make sure I present the right information, whether it's on Twitter in my videos, and I would be embarrassed if I was like in the rush to being first, I tweeted out something or, you know, made a video about something that was wrong, because that follows you, man, you know? Dubba says, hey, Rand and Jez, do you think Game Pass Ultimate will hit 100 million subs this gen? If not, would Microsoft see that as a disappointment? Best Xbox show by far, guys. I mean, 100 million subs for Xbox Game Pass, that would probably, I would say Microsoft would be more than happy with the 100 million subs. What do you think, Jez? I mean, 100 million subs is like $1 billion a month, right? That's 12 billion.
Money.
Yeah, that's ridiculous amounts of money. That doesn't even include Ultimate.
Yeah. And like, you have to remember, like, when it comes to Game Pass and stuff, unlike Netflix, which is paying insane amounts of money to Amazon to host their service, Microsoft doesn't have to, because they've got their own cloud. So that's just like raw, unmitigated cash going straight to Microsoft's coffers to deliver like better games, better hardware, better services, and, you know, expand that to other ventures potentially. So they would be ecstatic if they could hit 100 million. But, you know, it's a tall order. That'd be a tough number to hit. But I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility at all. I think like especially with PC, new markets, and mobile devices, I think they could easily hit that. Especially when Phil literally tweeted a couple of hours ago that iOS Game Pass for iOS is coming soon. So, to the web potentially. So there'll be a whole load of iPads and Macs and iPhones that can get on Game Pass as well soon. And iPad's a pretty good vehicle for that stuff. So watch this space. Like an iPad Pro becomes a pretty decent gaming rig if you've got like Game Pass on it. So, not a rig, but you can play some games as well.
Right. Least. Shout out to Gaming Forte, my brother. He says, best Friday in months. Enjoy your weekend, brother. I saw you laying out the facts on Brap earlier today. Love you out there basically educating everybody on what Xbox, Game Pass, and everything that's going on, man. You always slaying these fools out there. And we got Tifla G becoming the newest member. Thank you for supporting the channel, and enjoy all those wonderful emotes. We need to get more channel members so I can get more emote spaces, so I can have more cool emotes, Jez, because they kind of cap you. You can only have so many until you get like more, essentially.
Pixel tomato I put on there.
Yeah, well, the tomato's on there. The tomato's on there. Josh says, prediction, Scarlet Nexus day one on Game Pass. Actually, Hazador DM'd me, and I think it was because a tweet he sent out about how it would be cool to have Scarlet Nexus on Game Pass, which was liked by the official Twitter account or something. Let me take a look, because like I said, I hate misinformation. But he sent me a DM, and he says, Hazler tweeted out, "Lol, I wish Microsoft could start putting games like Scarlet Nexus in the service. It would be great." And he said the director of Scarlet Nexus liked my tweet of bringing his game to Game Pass. Even if it's not day one, it's good to see Japanese devs paying attention to Game Pass and bring more games. Well, that's the thing about Game Pass, right? Is we've been saying it for a while. The investment and the money spent on Game Pass is ridiculous, and it's basically it's the type of support you only see when you have the backing of a $1 trillion company like Microsoft, right? When you look at like something like Google Stadia, they weren't all in on gaming. That's why they basically cut bait, closed the shops, and who knows if the service will even be around. That's why Sony's out here basically saying, like Jim Ryan, like, hey, our games are expensive. We can't put our games in a subscription service. It's just way too expensive. And Microsoft is out here like, we're going to be getting a whole bunch of games. Not only do we get 20 new indie games that they showed off last week at the ID at Xbox show, but we're also going to bring you some AAA bangers like Outriders and MLB The Show, among our own titles. Forza Horizon 5, all the Bethesda games like Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, Halo Infinite, Fables, Avoweds, and everything. And then you don't even know what other surprises they may have, like the Octopath Travelers, like what could come in the future. And this isn't going to be the end, folks. This is just the beginning. This is definitely just the beginning. And anybody listening to this, you want to quote that, make sure he says Jez Corden on the Xbox 2 podcast says this is just the beginning. I didn't say those words because nobody cares when I say stuff. They only care when Jez says stuff.
Maybe I should have made you into a liver instead of a tomato.
You should have. When Randall chopped liver, yeah, you definitely should have said that. We got Kendrick Star saying, will Game Pass end console generations?
No.
I don't think so, but I mean, with the way Xbox is currently naming their consoles, like Xbox Series, where it's just Xbox and it's the Series model, you can definitely see potentially whatever is more powerful after the Series X being just like Xbox Series Titanium or something, right? Because it's just Xbox now. But you
have to remember, one of the cleverest things that Phil and the team did was base Game Pass on the Xbox architecture. So all the Game Pass servers for the cloud are Xbox consoles, basically. So as long as you have a cloud that relies on Xbox architecture, you'll have consoles that'll sell as well. So there'll be a console that's server shaped for the cloud, and there'll be a console that's console shaped for your home. So Xbox Game Pass, in a way, ensures generations, because when they add a new generation of server hardware, they'll also add a new generation of console hardware. So that's how that's going to work. The console gaming is it's anchored in the cloud. It's not hurt by the cloud. It's anchored in it because the cloud is a console. So you needn't worry about that. They're always going to do console hardware.
Yes.
I mean, unless we get to a point where we've got brain implants that beam Game Pass straight into your eyeballs or something, they'll continue doing console hardware.
Yeah, that's future stuff. Gaming Addict says, why I'm here. Rematch me, Jez.
Man, I retire from Pokemon as the champion, man.
Until the next Pokemon. Fun Cheeto says we need a Series X UWU limited edition. A UWU limited edition? Dan Lazaro says Xbox is playing to death by 1,000 cuts with PlayStation 5. And Dovakin89 says, word is Xbox dealt straight with MLB and not Sony. Who knows how the deal went? There's a lot of people out there on Twitter who are just, ridiculous console fanboys who don't even know how to balance their own checkbooks, but will tell you that it was MLB and it wasn't Sony. The only people know, essentially, who it is are people who were a part of the meetings. I don't know if Sony was involved. I don't know if it was just MLB that was involved. Anybody telling you any other way doesn't know because they weren't there. They're just trying to damage control for their platform, and you hate to see it. You know what I mean? You just hate to see it. Fuzzy Belvedere says, I was a PlayStation only player during the PS3 era. Is this what Xbox was like during the 360? Was this what Xbox was like?
To feel a little bit like that, I think. The excitement around it, and especially with Bethesda. I associate Fallout 3 and Skyrim and Oblivion so much with Xbox, and when those games start dropping and they're exclusive, that's gonna start feeling like the 360 era to me. But that whole era is gonna mean something different to everyone, right?
Yes,
I guess.
Yes, it definitely will. The 360 era means the 360 era in the beginning was great because it's just Microsoft was in their A game. PlayStation was the Xbox One, basically. They were so arrogant. They were the ones saying, hey, Our fans will buy our console even if it came with the brick, and that was the famous, hey, our fans will have to get 2 jobs to get the PS3. And then Xbox came out there, it was just about games. They had exclusives like Elder Scrolls Oblivion and Saints Row and BioShock and Ghost Recon. That like first 2 years were just magic, because then you got Gears of War, and then Halo came out in 2000, and Halo 3 came out in 2007. Right? It was just an onslaught of exclusives, basically because the cell was so hard to program games for. A lot of developers were like, we're just going to put our stuff on Xbox, and eventually PlayStation caught up. Like they invested in their first party studios, and they made a bunch of games, and development came a little bit easier, and the price of the consoles went down, and then Xbox got away from what made the system so popular in the first place, and they did Kinect, and they funded a bunch of Kinect games.
Hey, dude, and Kinect just landed $20 billion.
Well, no, that's HoloLens. That's not Kinect.
Yeah, but it's powered by Kinect,
okay,
right?
Sure. So
you've got Kinect. HoloLens is basically Kinect strapped to your face. That's literally what it is.
Yeah, true.
I mean, with a few extras, not to simplify.
But my point was that Microsoft got away from what made them successful, just like how PlayStation got away from what made them successful. To the point where they both had to pivot, and now we're seeing Xbox. Phil Spencer, he's been on the job now for 7 years. Turn around that ship that was sinking, that Don Matrick left, that Terry Myerson was, in charge of, that basically was sinking. And Phil was like, this is what we're going to do. This is the visions. And now you're starting to see, finally, for the first time ever, a Microsoft that is all in on gaming, 100% behind Xbox. This is what you get when Microsoft cares about the product. They know gaming is going to be important. It's always a long-term play, but they're 100% behind Xbox and Phil Spencer. Otherwise, you don't get a $7.5 billion investment in Bethesda. Otherwise, you don't get this Game Pass situation where you're just paying all these developers to get these games on their service and paying even more to get these big this is what it's like. I know people always kind of joked about the war chest, but this is what it would be like. And because now, even read forums and tweets, people are concerned, what's the next publisher Xbox is going to buy, or the next game they're going to get? Microsoft is playing a different game right now than Sony, and we'll talk about all that stuff, obviously, a little bit later when we talk about the Game Pass stuff. Paul says, what is going on with Sony right now? With their own Japanese studio losing, I believe, around 19 developers, and now MLB going to Game Pass day one. They actually dissolved the Japan studio. And they dissolved it? Well, I mean, it's basically the Asobo team. Pretty much everybody who's not part of the Asobo team left. And they shuttered that studio or whatever. I don't know if dissolved is the right term to use, but I think it's Sony's oldest first-party studio, and they just, they just closed it. And I mean, you can make the argument that it was probably a best financial decision because the games that they were making weren't very profitable, while the team who makes Astrobot essentially is killing it. So you invest in them. But it's always, especially in this era of PlayStation closing that studio and then also announcing they're closing the PS3 store and stuff like that. It's the whole PlayStation legacy is kind of taking a little hit this week, but we'll talk more about that later too. Zero Quality said, "Did you see the Fable concept art? Thanks to the Skittle War, an artist was allowed to post one with some changes." I did not see that. Did you see that, Jez?
No, I didn't. I don't think.
I didn't see that. Juniper says, "Hey Rand, 19. It's the 25th anniversary for Persona this September. Ask Jez to spill their Xbox release date, and maybe Kotaku will write about it."
I don't have any information beyond the smiley, I'm afraid. Just have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Cowhand says, Microsoft should market Game Pass announcements via a monthly video on direct or direct to reach new audiences. People reacting would bring more buzz versus a blog and tweet. I wonder if they feel comfortable with the social engagement as is now. As maybe I don't know, because they do 2 drops every single week, and maybe they feel like those social drops are better than a mini 10-minute direct. I'm not really sure. I'm sure they probably have those conversations. And at Xbox.
I think when
Gunstar.
we get to a point where Game Pass is getting like frequent, big, cool games, like, and it's gonna happen. Like the more users go into the service, the more games they're gonna add. Everyone wants to play something different, and ultimately, the ideal scenario is to have something for every type of gamer every month. So I think probably in the future they will get to a point where they're spending so much on content, and they've got so much budget to get new content that they probably could eventually go towards some kind of like monthly showcase of what's coming, even if it's like only a few minutes long or something. But it's still a growing service. We're in growth mode, investment mode right now. So
We're in
it's only going to get better and better and better. This is literally just the start. When Rand says this is the start, Rand Al chop liver. That's literally the truth. But now it's doubly true because I said it.
Yeah, well now people will care that you say it, so it's fine. I'm okay being Randall Chop Liver as long as everybody watches my videos. They know the truth. They know what I say usually ends up being right. The people that know, the real ones know what's going on. The real ones know. Everybody in the chat right now, you're part of the real ones. You know what's going on here. Jelly says, "Thanks for the show, guys. Enjoy it every week on Spotify. Sorry if asked already, just tuned in, but what do you expect from Microsoft's E3? Oh, and Gunstar says, long live Illumaroom. Illumaroom, I totally forgot about that.
That was cool, man.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
So for those who don't know, Illumaroom was like some weird Microsoft concepts research thing where there was like a hue light at the back of your TV, and it would like project the lighting from the game on your room, but like in like fairly high fidelity compared to what's out there now. Like there are some platforms that do this now that can sort of detect the ambient light around your TV and expand it from the back of the TV. I don't know which services do that, but Microsoft was working on that at one point. They work on a lot of stuff.
They are working on a lot of stuff. And hey, we got over 1,200 people here. Let's see if we can wrangle some more people on Twitter to come check out the show. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button. Hit that share button out. Share this on Twitter or Facebook or wherever you like to share things, or tell a friend. And if it's your first time here, what's going on? It's the Xbox 2 podcast. I'm Randall Thor 19, the man with the million. This is Jez Corden, leaker extraordinaire, Windows Central. Make sure you hit the subscribe because we do a weekly podcast, and we would love to have you and see you in chat. But Microsoft E3, what do you expect, Jez? I know it's a little bit early, or a couple months early. Just kind of give a short breakdown of the things you expect Microsoft to show. Well, didn't you actually say you had something you wanted to say on the show today? I don't want to...
You mean about upcoming shows?
Yeah, you said you had like a leak or something you wanted to share on the show?
Oh, it's not necessarily a leak. It's like...
come on, I'm trying to like type it up so people listen. I know, whatever. Yeah, go ahead.
It's already out there. Like Mary Jo Foley from CNET. She's like a veteran, Microsoft journalist and leaker extraordinaire too. And to put it into Rand's words, and she noted that in an article recently that the event that I thought, the March event, which just happened, the Idea Xbox event, is not the event that pulled through. And so there is another event. So that March event that I thought was the event that they were leaking before is not the event. There's another event coming, probably in April. So, yeah.
Well, we already know...
that's Mary Jo's league.
We already know Age of Empires 4 has an event in April, on April 10th.
Not that either.
Not that either. I mean, you're expecting Age of Empires 4 to finally get a release date, right? This year sometime? This event?
I think we'll get Age of Empires 4's release date. And I also think it'll be closer than you think.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it came out in summer. I think Xbox is trying to maybe line up a situation here where they have like a first-party game launching almost every month leading into summer. Like, it's odd that Psychonauts 2 hasn't announced anything yet, but like if you can look at it like, if you have, say, I don't know, like Psychonauts 2, like, say, Microsoft Flight Sim coming in June, Age of Empires 4 coming in July, potentially Psychonauts 2 coming in August, Forza Horizon 5 in September, Starfield October, Halo Infinite November, plus any other big Game Pass announcements that they could drop at any point in time, plus a bunch of indie games in there. Like, as my buddy Zedek says on Twitter, he's rooting, and his prediction is 35 million Xbox Game Pass members by the end of this year. And if they can pull off that, maybe that's realistic. Maybe 30 they could potentially hit. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Maybe we will get an update on Game Pass numbers when or if Microsoft ends up buying Discord, because we know that Wall Street Journal said that Microsoft was in exclusive talks to buy them. And I don't know. I kind of of the opinion that I don't think Microsoft is going to let Discord slip through their fingers. I think they're going to buy them.
They can't afford to let Discord slip. They literally can't. It's their only opportunity to have a web-based gaming community to take on Twitch and YouTube. Frankly, they can't let that one go.
Yeah.
If they let Discord slip, it's going to be, problematic, I guess. And also, it really helped Game Pass on PC, because you got a lot of eyeballs with a lot of people open Discord every day.
Yeah, they do have to work. They do have to work on the PC side of things. Like Outriders not coming to Game Pass PC. It's kind of a blow. MLB The Show not coming to, well, it's not even on PC, but they do need some work to do on the PC side of things. But as for like the E3, I expect a heavy emphasis on Halo, heavy emphasis on Forza, and maybe first looks at gameplay for whatever games are coming out in 2022, with some more like global publishing deals and titles like Warhammer Dark Tide, like Game Pass announcements. I'm not expecting big surprises. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe I'll start hearing more about the show the closer we get to it. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm expecting. What about you, Jez?
Yeah, I'm expecting stuff like that. I think maybe Biomutant could come to Game Pass, because that's launching in May.
That is launching, but they announced Biomutant is coming to EA Play Pro the other day.
Oh.
So
okay, maybe not.
I mean,
hang on. If it's on EA Play, then
it's on EA Play Pro day one on the PC side. So yeah.
Okay. So maybe not then. Yeah. But yeah, I think you're right that we'll hear more about xCloud for iOS or web or whatever, and also some maybe some updates for the PC side, because like you say, I don't think the PC stuff is where it needs to be. The modding platform is not great right now. The modding platform's got loads of issues, and it doesn't, frankly, work properly, So I think they've got a lot of work to do on the PC side, and some kind of event will be the right time to talk about mods and that sort of stuff, and then also what they're doing to address the feedback from the PC gamers, because the Windows Store delivery mechanisms just are super bad still.
Yeah.
But I know Microsoft's investing a lot in Windows now. They've since Myerson left. Not only they're seeing a resurgence in Xbox, they're going to see a resurgence in Windows too. Windows is getting a full UI update to look more like what we've got on Xbox with the Fluent design and stuff like that. Later this year, and also Windows 10X is coming later this year, which won't run Windows 32 games, but will run Game Pass games. So I don't know. They've got a lot going on right now for consumers, and it's nice, because for a little while there, I kind of felt like Microsoft was, getting away from consumers and being all like, yeah, we want to be business now. Satya's all about business. LinkedIn, sterile kind of Microsoft that, is kind of boring, but makes a lot of money, but it's kind of boring,
Yeah.
So, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff coming.
There's a lot of stuff coming. Mr. Squean says, first, Sony would never consider PC. Money changed their mind. I'm willing to bet by 10th gen, at least some find a way to Xbox, not day one, but maybe. Hector Lopez says, Ubisoft Plus is probably going to Xbox next. I mean, we talked about that Ubisoft rumor since last year, that it was something me and Jez have both heard, and Special Ed and Jeff Grubb has talked about it. We've talked about it again this year. There's a good probability that at the end of this year, the backlog games of Ubisoft will hit Game Pass in November, which would be pretty ridiculous. Xbox is trying to make Game Pass the dominant force in gaming, gaming subscriptions. Like when you think of subscriptions, you only think of Game Pass. You think of nothing else. Like that's their goal. You know what I mean? So,
I think honestly, with that in mind, I think it's really literally only a matter of time until Sony starts copying Game Pass and starts putting their games in day one. I think like at some point Sony's going to realize like the only way to catch up now is to emulate and offer the similar sort of service for people who ultimately
I've said it before. I think I said it on this show last week. But by the end of this generation, the only difference between PlayStation and Xbox will be their first party studios and the fact that PlayStation won't be putting their games on PC day one. Because I also fully expect at some point PlayStation will put their games on whatever streaming service they want to do, Game Pass competitor, whether it's PS Plus, merged with PS Now. But yeah, I expect by the end of this generation, their games will be in their version of whatever Game Pass day one. So, like, not saying God of War Ragnarok, but whatever's coming after that, like, will be there. And it's just like the people saying never, like, I know there's a bunch of people saying never, like, you better watch when you say never, because that is an absolute term, and you always get cremated when you say that stuff. Like, it was never, the PlayStation would never put their games on PC until they did, and now it's like a whole slew of them, right? They never were going to allow Xbox Live, and then they did with Minecraft, and they never were going to allow crossplay, and crossplay is a standard feature now. Times are changing, and Sony doesn't think in terms of the console war that you do, that you fight for Sony every single day on Twitter, and they don't even know you exist. That's the funny part about it. You're doing free charity work for them, and they don't even care. They don't even care. They'll raise the prices of their games $10 to $70, and they don't even care because they know that you're just going to defend whatever thing they do. You will defend. It doesn't matter. $70 games, no problem. And Sony will never do this, and then they do it, and then you move the goalposts, constantly moving the goalposts back and back and back and back and back. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be funny. If somebody is out there listening to this, and you have compilations of these tweets from months and months ago and years ago, it's gonna be funny what people will say will never happen back in 2013 to what's actually going to happen like in 2026. Gaming's gonna look really different, and a lot of these guys aren't gonna survive this generation. It's gonna be hilarious.
The advantage when you're anonymous, you have no accountability. You can say like what I wish to happen, and then like no one can call you out on being completely wrong because you don't have any accountability when you're anonymous. When you're hiding behind a handle and like some kind of cartoon profile picture, you have no accountability. So
yeah. Gaming Addict says, we believe in Rand. Lol, it's all just jokes, man. I know, Addict. Post Up says, here to support, bro. Great show. Thanks, Post Up. Hope you're having a good day, man. I see Special Ed's in the chat. He says, don't worry, there's more third-party game launches coming this year. And he's earned his Special Ed, So, thanks for being here, Nick.
solid.
Jason Spears says, I wish games were like movies where we receive the digital code along with the physical disc. Bit rates, etc., better in physical. I know why. Money. Happy Easter. Thank you for the super chat, buddy. And that would be interesting. I've always thought about that. Like the movie industry did that.
It's funny, man.
What?
That's what Microsoft tried to do.
I know they were just ahead of the curve, and but the thing is Microsoft tried to force everybody to do it. If it was just optional or they led people along, maybe people would have accepted it. But they were like, no, this is how it's going, and everybody revolted, right? Paul AFC, will the iOS browser be comparable to the Android app in terms of stability and latency? Love the show, guys. I don't know yet. You've tested out the Windows 10 app, right? The xCloud app. Would it probably be similar to that on iOS?
Yeah, I mean structurally, yeah. It's just a web wrapper at the end of the day. It should look pretty much identical. Just a website that you click on and then you get a downstream. And then because the Xbox controller Bluetooth stack is on iOS and it is on Mac OS, it's not called Mac OS X anymore, is it? It's just called Mac OS, I think. But it is on Apple platforms. So like it connects up to the Bluetooth stack and whatever, blah, 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 blah. And when it's coming down through the web, Apple can't really block it because, we operate in an open web world. but I haven't been able to test xCloud on PC properly because it tries to connect to the American servers because I'm not supposed to have access to it, and it's too laggy. But it does work. It's just as if I was trying to stream from the middle of nowhere to a server in another country. But if you're in America, you wouldn't have any issues most likely.
Yeah. Chiefman says, between Outriders, Octopath, and MLB 2021, nothing can be ruled out for Game Pass. And that kind of leads into what Darren says, where he says, Final Fantasy VII Remake on Game Pass by the end of the month. I mean, the exclusivity, I think, is up on the 10th, officially. I expect the Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate to get announced for PC. I still don't think it's coming to Xbox. Look, I guess I'll say I'm just going to go with the belief it's not hitting Xbox, right? So if there's not announced, it's like, okay, you were prepared for that. However, if somehow it is announced for Game Pass, then you're going to be happy and you're surprised. If you're expecting a game like Final Fantasy VII Remake to hit Game Pass by the end of that announcement and it doesn't happen, you're only really setting yourself up for disappointment in that regard. So I'm just expecting that Sony basically extended the exclusivity agreement for another year, potentially, and I'm going to go with that. But if it does get announced for Game Pass this month or whatever, or, maybe coming out in June with, like, the PS5 PC version potentially, then we'll all be happy about it. We'll all be surprised, and nobody will be disappointed, right? So that's the way I kind of look at it. Juniper says, just wanted to say congrats on the weight loss to Jez. Also, everyone, give Undertale a try. It's finally on Xbox Game Pass. Just hop in blind. Ooh. We got to give everybody, give Jez a congrats. You posted on Twitter that, you started your diet, I think the keto diet, and you're down 25 big pounds. So congratulations, buddy.
Nah. I quit keto. It was too weird, man. Only eating, like, fat all the time. It kind of feels just icky. So now I'm just calorie counting, just eating healthy, salad, doing the boring diet. But it's working really well for me so far. 24 pounds to be exact, down in a month. So I'm going to lose 150 pounds, Rand, and then I'm going to be sexy, and then I'm going to become a TikTok influencer and, become a millionaire. That's the plan, man.
That is the plan.
That is the plan.
Dead Planet says, when's the next event? Still would like to see a vigorous exclusive drop in the first half year of Xbox, though these AAA day one drops are good. Well, we just talked about the next event. Although it's probably not really a gaming event for us. I would imagine Microsoft and Bethesda, the game studios event, will be sometime in the summer. They could, it wasn't this, I think it was April or May when they announced, remember last year when Xbox had the 2020 event, Jez? Xbox 2020, and then like everything got screwed up and they kind of didn't follow that whole thing.
I don't know what happened with that, but they could bring it back if they get the content. I think they tried to stretch it out a bit thin, maybe. I don't know, but their presentations have generally been a little bit bad, but they're still kind of consistent because, man, what the hell was that 4-hour long Twitch thing there? I wish they'd just pick a format and stick to it. Why do they have to keep alternating?
I think it's all about exposure. For like the obviously that event was, I think the content was good. We talked about it last week, but we'll just go over it again because I think it's important. I think Xbox was looking for exposure. They did those showcase videos last year. They did like a whole bunch of them, 5 or 6 that were like 15 minutes long that had gameplay with the developers talking over it. But they were YouTube videos, and if you go look at the videos, they didn't get many views, and I don't think many outlets covered it, right? So if you're ID at Xbox and you have these prestige indies coming and you're making announcements for Game Pass, you're probably thinking, we want more exposure. We want more eyes on our content. We want more websites to talk about it. So who do you partner with? You partner with Twitch, right? But the problem is Twitch runs it like any of their other events where it's really long and they have hosts that really don't know what they're doing or really know what the games are. And you end up with that situation where it's 4 hours long. The interviews go on for way too long. And the pacing of it and how long it was overshadowed the games that were announced. So if they continue to work with Twitch Twitch, Twitch simply for the exposure, simply to get more eyes on the content and more outlets to write about it. Then they got to make some demands from Twitch, being like, listen, you can't put Hades in the artwork if Hades ain't going to be there, right? Because that's setting bad expectations. And 2, these interviews can only be 5 minutes long. 3, we'll pick the hosts, or at least the hosts have to be knowledgeable to know what they're talking about. And 4, the event has to be in between 60 and 90 minutes, like no later than that. Otherwise, people just tune out. So hopefully those are the changes they make later on for the next Idea at Xbox event. Gunslinger says Sony has mindshare, but is it simply cash that is stopping them competing with Game Pass at the same level? Cash is some of it. They're obviously not as rich as Microsoft is, but I also think it has to do a lot with infrastructure and basically how everything is set up. Like Xbox has been building towards this since 2017. They pivoted the company and all that stuff, whereas PlayStation, they've dominated with the traditional model, and they see the traditional model as the one that's going to win, and they're going to slowly move in that direction. And now you see a competitor that has the backing of a bigger company and that is willing to throw money around, and maybe the traditional way isn't the best anymore, so you kind of got to pivot, but it's going to be very slow to pivot. We'll have to wait and see what Sony does with that. Kendrick Star says, is PS5 all at once splash of info hurting their brand? And will Xbox stumble at E3 this year like they did last year? Who won E3 this year? No, I mean, I know a lot of people will say, like, when Sony didn't say much about the PS5, it was hurting them. I always said it doesn't matter. Whenever Sony talks about the PS5, it's going to be big news, and it was. And as for everything we're talking about the PS5 right now, it's impossible to find. There's talks that it might break records for the fastest selling console everywhere. So like people want the PS5 and people want the Xbox Series X and S as well, because those are sold out and hard to find too. I think Microsoft obviously is coming from the underdog position, right? Where they need to, Microsoft is the one who needs to change consumers' perceptions about Xbox. Sony's in the driver's seat. They are just going to keep on doing what they're going to do and what they're good at. Xbox is the one that had the rough generation, right? That a lot of people kind of turned their back on Xbox. So they're the ones who have to make these announcements, who have to be in the news to bombard people with the great things that they're doing with the platform, with backwards compatibility, with FPS boost, with Game Pass, with these announcements. So when you keep on getting bombarded, you're going to take a second look at Xbox, and maybe you decide, hey, it's worth getting an Xbox now. It's worth subscribing to. So I think it's important for Xbox to do that and not so much PlayStation. Although you could make an argument that it might bite PlayStation, at some point. I just don't think it will. But I think it's important for Xbox to keep at it. What do you think, Jez?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take hard to change perceptions and stuff like that. I think people's age comes into play a little bit too. I think like a lot of gamers are like get into sort of our age and get stuck in their ways and stuck in their opinions, and it becomes harder to change people's minds. Which is another good argument for picking up Sonic and Sega, because then, maybe you could, make Sonic your mascot and get a new generation of gamers who aren't necessarily beholden to a specific platform or whatever. But I think the real truth about all this is Microsoft wants to build a massive platform, a social platform, which is why they're looking at Discord and they tried the whole Mixer thing, and they want to just make Xbox a destination for all things play. They don't want to just be a game company. They don't just want to be a company that makes consoles. They want Xbox to be a connected platform. Which you spend time in and you meet your friends in, and you make memories in. Ultimately, that's the goal here. It's to move beyond the console. The console will still be there. The console is anchored by the cloud, like we discussed earlier. The fact that cloud is powered by the console means that the console will still be there. But they want to go beyond that, because like gaming as a sort of console gaming hasn't really grown for like ages. All the growth's been on PC and all the growth's been on mobile. So, to get all those gamers into one place, you need a sort of pervasive platform. And the first company that really nails that will, it'll pay dividends. You've got a lot of companies right now who have elements of a gaming social platform. Like you got Amazon with Twitch. Amazon doesn't have a gaming console, but they are trying the whole Luna thing. And then like Google has YouTube, but then they weren't all in with Stadia, so it just sort of failed. But the fact that like Stadia was marketed originally as having all these deep integrations with Facebook that just didn't happen because they didn't have the, I don't know, the drive, I guess. There weren't enough people at Google that were pushing for it. There weren't enough people at Google who were all on the same page about it. And Microsoft tried with Mixer, but it was just too far behind to grow the platform. And they gave it a good shot, They didn't do terribly with it, but it was just sort of evident that Twitch was too far ahead at that time. And streaming as an idea is growing too. Like that whole Clubhouse thing, Twitter Spaces, even Discord recently launched its own Spaces thing. I don't know if you saw this round. We could do one of those on our own Discord at some point.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, we could, like a Q&A thing. I don't know. But the whole idea about social is evolving constantly. And I think like Tencent is often the one that's seen as a concern, because Tencent is a company that has hundreds of millions of gamers within its games and titles and entities when you think about League of Legends and stuff like that. And they have these massive social networks too, like on the scale of Facebook we're talking here. But they haven't like managed to tie them all together yet into a single sort of cohesive whole. But if they could, and if they did, like Tencent spreading its tendrils into various companies, dropping investment here and there, taking a stake in tons and tons of different companies, they have a goal in mind, and they have the social power to back it up. And it's sort of like that's sort of what Microsoft is thinking about. They're thinking like 5 years, 10 years out into the future where social media has evolved again. Microsoft like totally missed the boat when it came to Facebook and social, but I think like they see an opportunity with Discord and gaming to not miss the next big shift in gaming. That's what the cloud's about. That's what Discord's about. And it's going to be exciting times ahead, for Xbox.
Yeah.
And all that money they get from that will ultimately serve us, the core gamer, because it means more games, more exclusives, and all that sort of stuff. So you got to keep your eye on this stuff, man. The things are changing really quickly, and honestly, if Sony doesn't pivot and keep up, they could get left behind eventually.
Yeah. Aquaman says, how are the Bang & Olufsen B Play Portal Xbox headphones compared to the Asteroid 50s in terms of quality, features, and comfort? I don't think anybody's used them yet, so it's hard to say how would they compare to the A50s yet. But Jez, you said you will be reviewing those headsets whenever they do come out.
I have a couple of people in our team have them pre-ordered, so we will have reviews up about them fairly soon, hopefully. I don't know exactly when they come out. I think they come out in America before they come out in the UK. So yeah. Nobody has reviews yet, but we are getting them, and soon I will tell you everything you need to know about them.
Yeah,
Nick, I am skeptical, Rand, given how expensive they are.
Yeah, they are pretty expensive. Nicholas says, "Congrats, Jazz. Get sexier, ooh." Yeah, this whole ooh thing is ridiculous. Ryan says, "Shame Microsoft doesn't have their own streaming service." Yeah, I mean, they should have bought in Twitch when they had the chance, but Twitch is having their own problems. I saw an article today. It was like, hey, maybe they should do something about the streamers and jacuzzis and poolsides, because like every time I go to Twitch now, it's just girls in bikinis, and people complain about it. It's like, hey, if that's sex sells clearly, so. It's Twitch's platform.
Get that bread, man.
Yeah, go get that money.
When I get thin, I'm gonna be doing that too, man. Yeah. Just watch.
King 2002 says Xbox E3 should showcase more Halo, Forza 5, Starfield, Fable, Avowed, Hellblade gameplay like Disney Plus Stream did late last year. Roadmap of the future. Let's hope that's how it goes. Man, it's been a long intro to the show. So if you guys are enjoying it,
Are we still in the intro?
I mean, we've just been talking about the stuff, and like, yeah, we haven't really gotten to anything yet. Like, we can talk about the games we're playing really quickly, and then get into topics. So if you guys are enjoying it, because we still have everything here to talk about. I know Jez has some interesting things to say about the Kotaku taking an L, and so do I. This whole MLB The Show on Game Pass is so interesting for so many different reasons. So if you join the show, make sure you hit that like button, share it on social media, hit the subscribe button if you're new. So I guess we'll go over what we've been playing quickly. I beat It Takes Two. I loved it, Jez. Like, easy 8.5 out of 9. If you guys haven't played It Takes Two, make sure you do yourself a favor and play this game. It is one of the best kind of co-op platform puzzlers out there. Maybe the best. Like when you factor in the co-op. Like, I absolutely loved it, and I recommend it. And you know, if one person buys it, they can send their friend pass to another person, and you guys can play it together. I highly recommend everybody play It Takes Two. I really loved it. I also beat the Ancient Gods Part 2 Doom Eternal DLC, Jez. And there's an interesting discussion to be had here. You know, with John G saying to troll Sony, Microsoft should buy Crunchyroll, and Dark Cia says hit the like button. That's right, guys, hit the like button. I really like the Ancient Gods DLC, right? Part 2. I put the intro to the last level on my Twitter. So epic. But there's interesting discussion going on because I no longer think id Software is making a Doom sequel. I think clearly, based on how that DLC ends, and I'm not going to spoil for anybody, right? Indie Gamer says, did Rand say 8.5 out of 9? No, I meant to say either an 8.5 or a 9, depending on how I feel out of 10, obviously. Like, I love the game. Sometimes I feel it's a 9. Sometimes I do feel that, like, the last couple levels dragged on a little bit too far, but the game's amazing. But the ending of Doom Eternal basically takes the story and wraps it up to the point where there may not be another Doom game. Like, that's how clear-cut the story's wrapped up.
I don't believe it.
So now that brings up an interesting discussion about, well, if there isn't another Doom game next in 3 or 4 years, well, what are they doing next? Are they going to reboot Quake? And Ryan says in the chat, they already said this was the end of the Doomslayer story. Well, if they said that, then they obviously 100% mean it, because the ending to that DLC is, yeah, I mean, it really does put a cap on the story. And it's, it's going to be weird for people who don't play, because, you know, most people don't play DLCs. They'll just play Doom Eternal and thinking, hey, there's going to be another game coming, right? Not knowing that, well, no, the story wrapped up in the DLC. So what do you think it's doing next? Are they going to reboot Quake and bring that back? Are they going to actually do like a new IP? What would you want to see? What would chat, what would you want to see? What would you want to see id Software do if they're not making another Doom, which, judging from the end of the DLC, it looks like it's possible? Would you like to see them bring back Quake and reboot it like they did Doom? Or would you like a brand new IP? Let us know what you think in chat while Jez is answering the question. What do you want, Jez?
I would want a spiritual sequel to Hexen. I think Activision own the IP, which means they can't do a Hexen game. But there's no reason they couldn't do a very sort of similar take on it, you know, like sort of how Dragon Age evolved out of Baldur's Gate, you know. They could do like a game similar to Hexen where it's sort of like Doom but wizards, you know. I'm down with that. Or they could you know, I mean, technically that'd have been a new IP, but also kind of not. But I do think there's a gap in the market for a Hexen reboot. But man, I like the Rage universe. I just sort of like Rage 1 was kind of sort of not the best, and Rage 2 sort of also not the best. But I want to see that IP succeed. Maybe third time's a charm. I don't know, but maybe something new. But like some people in chat are saying, like they could also tap Microsoft's huge backlog of IP.
They
like,
could.
Said Mechasol, you know.
What if it did a Halo spinoff?
ODST.
ODST style.
ODST.
You know, I mean, I don't know. They could do anything. Like, it would be interesting to see if they rebooted Quake, what that would look like in 2021. But like, honestly, with like the initiative doing Perfect Dark, and I know a lot of people like kind of went back and forth on whether or not they should do a new IP. If they're not doing Doom, I kind of want id to work on something new. You know what I mean? But we probably won't know for a couple years anyways. Face says, some people keep saying PlayStation needs to pivot and follow Xbox's strategy this gen. This gen just started. PlayStation been doing great so far. Wait to see everything plays out. Sometimes if you wait and see everything plays out, you're behind the 8 ball and you have a lot of ground to make up. And that could, always use the, could, not will, could happen. If they don't do that, and maybe they end up in a weirder situation because this MLB The Show thing on Game Pass is very, 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 very interesting. Tony Art says, what if id makes an FPS Gears of War game? That'd be interesting. And our buddy Sam Tolbert in chat says, hold on, I just missed it. He says, Marty Stratton even said they're going to do more Doom games. Well, I mean, I'm not saying that they couldn't do more Doom games.
Doom game, you play as the Marauder.
I'm not saying that they couldn't do more Doom games based on the ending, but they definitely seem like if they do it, it's more years away or something. The way kind of I took that to what that to mean.
The fact they said it's the end of the Doom Slayer story kind of hints that they could do a Doom game that isn't the Doom Slayer story. Because with the Ancient Gods, they really expanded the lore of the universe. Like before, Doom was just sort of like this, you're a guy who hates demons, go and kill them, and there wasn't really much more to it beyond that. There's like some kind of Martian facility, whatever. But they really expanded the lore and what Doom means as a sort of, franchise or whatever. So I think like there is things they could do with it. I would like to play as a Marauder or a Demon or something. That'd be kind of weird and cool. Or if you play as like one of those, flying skeleton things. I can't remember. I can never remember what they're called. The Revenant.
Yeah.
Play as a Revenant. That'd be sick. Like you play as like a young Revenant in the Hell Army, and you have to like. I'm just making myself laugh with this. What if id did something completely crazy? What if id made the next Banjo game?
I think if id made the next Banjo game, a lot of people would be very disappointed. There'd be definitely a group of people who would love that Banjo is coming back, but I don't know if they want id to make it. Although there was a lot of platforming in this new Doom game, and I'm sure a lot of you can hear my dog Shakespeare is barking at people, across the street. So, I'm sorry if you can hear him, but hey, he's a big dog. I don't want to say no to him. He'll probably bite my hand off. Well, he's a sweetheart. He's super gentle, but you just kind of let him do. He's barking at something. Michael says Ninja Theory should make a new Killer Instinct. Bleeding Edge started out as a fighting game and they dabbled a bit with Kung Fu Chaos. I think they need an actual proper fighting game developer to make Killer Instinct, and you let Ninja Theory do what Ninja Theory is good at, which is like, AAA, cinematic games that with heavy emphasis on story and stuff. So yeah. And the other game I played a lot of was Outriders, which I think you played as well. So
yes, I played a lot of Outriders.
You were bemoaning the server issues, which I think they took the servers down today recently. So there is that. They say it's not a live service game, but you're tied to the servers. I will say, I've been playing this with Cole Eastwood. He's my co-op buddy. He's playing as a pyromancer. I'm playing as a trickster. And I was kind of going into this title, and I was thinking to myself, it's probably just going to be an okay game, right? One of those things where, like, Game Pass is actually saving me money, because I would have bought this game, because I buy a lot of the games. But in this situation, Game Pass is going to buy me money. I did get a review copy from Square Enix, so keep that in mind. So thanks to them for sending over a review code. I'm actually enjoying this game more than I thought. And it has to do with the co-op factor. Me and Colt are having an incredible time playing the game. And I like how the AI, it doesn't just sit back and kind of shoot at you, but they'll flank you, they'll rush you while shooting you, right? And it really heightens the combat. And personally, I love the Trickster class. Like, there's 4 different classes. I love being able to teleport behind somebody with a shotgun and dropping a slow, the slow mo shield bubble, and I can just like kill people in it, or and then use my spinning ability. I love being able to do that, and the powers generate so quickly. I'm having a blast playing this with Colton. He's using the fire. However, the dialogue's a little bit corny. Like when you actually talk to people and you listen, like the dialogue between the main character, the Outrider, and the other characters can be a little cringy and corny. Like it definitely seemed like to be kind of lifted from like last generation type games. And each area kind of plays out the same way. You go into an area, you plant your flag where you can travel, and then when you actually make it through an area, you clear out all the enemies, and then you either open up a door or you force push a blockage away, or you open up a gate, and then you're into the next area, and you do the same thing. And then, when you do side quests, you always come to a loading screen. And I'm sure you've seen it meme, right? Like where like they jump over the little gap, right? You come up to the gap, you hit the button, it goes to black. As a cutscene of the dude jumping over it, fades back to black, loads. It's like, really? What are we doing here? Like, and I'm 10 hours in, so like it's one of those things where you notice it, when you're constantly playing, like everything kind of plays out the same way. But I gotta say, like the way the powers combined, playing with co-op, that I'm enjoying the game more than I probably would be playing solo if I did buy the game. What do you think of Outriders?
Well, I haven't played it in co-op yet because I have no friends, unfortunately. But I've been playing it solo a fair bit. I just got to the mountainous, icy place. I'm kind of with you that it's sort of weird how many loading screens there are, and how much I kind of feel like those areas could have been streamed. Surely, like, I mean, there's a lot of tricks to develop, and I'm learning this as I learn game development more. And this is common knowledge too, but there's a lot of tricks game developers use to hide level loading. Like when you're playing Tomb Raider and you have to like squeeze through like a little gap in a wall. Outriders just doesn't bother to do that. They're just like, oh, by the way, you jump over a gap and now it's a loading screen. That is the equivalent of squeezing through a gap in a lot of games that do that. That is actually a loading screen, but it's like an interactive loading screen and it's supposedly seamless. But it's kind of weird when every single AAA game does it. It doesn't become that seamless anymore. But that's a whole nother argument. But it's those kind of little things that are kind of, I don't know, janky about the game. I kind of felt like the gunplay is familiar in a Gears sort of way, because People Can Fly did work on Gears of War, and the cover system's sort of like a Division, but not as tight. And the gunplay is not as tight as Gears of War as well, but I do find myself enjoying it quite a lot. I like the world building. Like I'm actually reading the text logs and getting interested in the setting and the world. I do like the whole sort of colonizing a planet out there and all the difficulties and stuff that can arise from that. Mass Effect Andromeda was all about that. Even though like Mass Effect Andromeda was not a great Mass Effect game, I still think it was a pretty good game. So I really like the setting a lot, and the setting is honestly what's driving me forward. The gunplay and the powers are really cool. I'm playing a Technomancer that can summon weapons. So I'm like summoning rocket launchers.
Ah, man, if only you were playing at the same
launchers
time
and
as me and
stuff like that.
Colt. Because I'm a
Yeah.
trickster, he's a pyro. We could definitely use a technomancer, and this game definitely works better in co-op. How do you feel about the world tiers? Because like you level up
Yeah.
to like it's like story level, easy, normal, hard, master, expert. The enemies get tougher, but you get better loot. I find that to be like sometimes it can be pretty challenging, and it gives you that nice feeling when you beat a really hard encounter. So like, I thought it was like I was gonna set it at normal and just play through it, but we're just letting it roll because I'm enjoying the challenge that it does offer. The deeper, the more enemies you fight and the bigger captains.
Yeah, it's that's inspired by Diablo. It's like the Diablo has a similar sort of world tier system. Minecraft Dungeons has it too, and I don't know if the new Borderlands game does or whatever, or if it just has difficulty levels. But those whole world tier things are like a Diablo sort of inspiration, and I do like it. I got to a part earlier where I was just super stuck on. I was on world tier. I just crossed over into world tier 6, and I just literally, no matter what I did, I couldn't get past this segment because there were 3 skull dudes, and then like one of them was rushing me, and there was no cover, and there was mortars flying all over the place. So I just like bumped the world tier down so I could like get through that segment and get some gear upgrades and stuff to get deeper into World Tier 6. But for the most part, yeah, I've just been like letting it roll. And it's ultimately like you customize your experience. Like if you want to play Diablo super fast, just one shot in everything, and you just want to get through the game, you can play on a lower world tier. If you want to like get better loot and push forward, then you put on a higher world tier. So I do like that, the whole aspect of tailoring your experience. And also it's pretty cool the way it sort of does it automatically for you. If it thinks like, okay, your gear score is good enough now, you can bump up a world tier. I think like the way they've balanced that is actually surprisingly good. But I do have a big problem with the game, Rand.
What's your problem, Jez? Speak on it.
I think you're gonna know what my problem is, man. Because like I say, I've been playing the game solo because I've got no friends. And even though I'm playing it solo, keep getting disconnected, man. In a game that was marketed as not a live service game, but do you get to call your game not a live service if it forces you to play online with a Square Enix account? I don't think so, man. I don't think you get to call your game not a service game if your game requires a Square Enix account. And while we've been podcasting, Rang, people can fly threw Square Enix under the bus on their Twitter account.
I did see them. They threw Square Enix under the bus.
Yeah, they were like, our partners at Square Enix are working on the server infrastructure. So clearly, Square Enix, and I suspected this based on a history of covering Square Enix games that are underfunded when it comes to this sort of thing. Square Enix sucks at server infrastructure. They suck at it. And they sucked at it since they forced a multiplayer mode into like Tomb Raider and that stupid microtransactions mode into Deus Ex that didn't need to be there. Square Enix are great at failing when it comes to a lot of this stuff. So like I posted a tweet about this the other day and everyone was like, oh, but it uses Azure PlayFab servers. And it's like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't use PlayFab servers. It's peer-to-peer hosted. So your Xbox acts as the server. The only thing that has a quote-unquote dedicated server is Square Enix's account authentication server. And that is not spec'd to deal with the influx in players. Like for the last 2 days, at peak time, the server has exploded. Square Enix did not dedicate enough resources to doing this. They forced a system into the game that didn't need to be there because they wanted it to be online or whatever. This is all Square Enix's fault. Square Enix is just awful at this stuff. And they can consistently show that they're being awful at this stuff. And they hide behind the Outriders brand account, which is why it's a good thing that People Can Fly came up and they were like, yeah, this isn't our fault. It's Square Enix's fault. Because, Square Enix is basically sort of hiding away when they completely underfunded and underspec all of this stuff. So I hopefully they'll get more server tickets or whatever and improve the situation over time. But I think this could be a case of this game struggling because of Square Enix's, I don't know, poor investment in their own products. And I keep seeing this time and time again with their Western games, whether it's Tomb Raider, whether it's Deus Ex, or now this. Like Square Enix just doesn't fund their Western games to the same level they fund, their Final Fantasy, and stuff like that. So we'll just have to wait and see how they do when it comes to that sort of stuff. But I do want it to grow to the point where it could actually take on Destiny. They say it's not a live service game, but it totally is. They're working on expansions. They're going to work on endgame stuff. The game is structured like a service game. You don't put like a Square Enix account system in there unless you want to make a service game. it's a service game. It is a service game. So, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But I do love it, man. I'm having a blast with it. Kind of feels like a higher quality Remnant from the Ashes, kind of. And I also wonder, like, could this be how Gears of War could evolve? Maybe
Powers.
power, not necessarily powers, like tech powers, like classes, maybe a sniper and a stealth dude. Because there is stealth technology in Gears. Like Jack flies around with the stealth field all the time. Like maybe you could have a class that focuses on Jack and zaps people. Flamethrower class, I don't know. But I did when I'm playing it, it's hard not to think about Gears because the superficial similarities,
Yeah,
But
it's I don't know. Like I know. Like I kind of agree with your points about the shooting and stuff, but I find it oddly satisfying every single time I warp behind somebody and then give them with the shotgun, and they're like, they slow mo explode into bits. Like that honestly hasn't gotten old yet, and when their heads explode from the shots. So even though like the shooting is fairly similar to other games, I'm enjoying it playing in co-op with Colt. And it runs at a 60 frame. Like this is why like I'm really enjoying this generation. And maybe it's because I've become a frame rate snob now. But like, how could we have played on 30 frames before? Like seriously, like it's 60 frames. I got VRR on my my TV, so like if it's dropping frames or screen tearing, I don't see it. Like almost every single game I played this generation on the PS5 and the Series X has been 60 frames, and it's immaculate. This is all I wanted from this generation. I know a lot of people aren't. There's a segment of people out there that aren't impressed with these games yet, even though a lot of them are cross-gen, and I understand that. But for me, it's like this is one of the big things I wanted from the Xbox and from PlayStation. 60 frames is a standard. And if you're not going to do it as a standard, at least give people the option. 60 frames, people. And then you have games that are doing 120, like, Master Chief Collection, Rocket League, Call of Duty, Black Ops Cold War, Modern Warfare, and I'm certainly blanking on other ones, but like for me, a lot of the talk, or at least the enjoyment out of this gen, is playing games at 60 frames and 120 frames, even to the point where Elder Scrolls Online is getting an Xbox Series X and PS5 patch for 60 frames later in the year. And folks, you want an example of Xbox doing legacy content? Remember when Phil Spencer said legacy when he was talking about Bethesda at that Bethesda roundtable? And there is a group of people out there that still don't want to believe the Bethesda games are exclusive because they're hanging on that word legacy. Like, legacy, that means, Doom and Elder Scrolls are all coming to PlayStation. They cannot not support PlayStation. Nah, man, legacy means older software on systems, and Elder Scrolls Online is an example of that legacy, and it's getting the same patch, 60 frames. And even they announced Watchdogs Legion is also getting 60 frame patch on the Xbox Series X and presumably the PlayStation 5. So I haven't played Watchdogs Legion yet because I really don't want to go and delve into 30 frames games unless it's absolutely necessary. But now that Watchdogs Legion is getting 60 frames, I'm gonna play it. I guess I'm a frame rate snob. I guess we can retire Filmic now, Jez. Honestly, who else feels the same way in chat? Are we spoiled now to get 60 frames? And there's probably some PC guys listening to this being like, hey, like we've been telling you, Rand, and I've been advocating it since the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro. Like, give us 60 frames because the games feel and look better at that at that frame rate. Things animate better, they look better. Like, I don't know why anybody would want to play at 30 frames, to be honest. Like, it's almost vomit-inducing at this point.
What about Filmic, Round?
No, we're gonna have to retire Filmic and come up with something new. Shout out to Red Cloud Gamer. He says, I'd like id to make a shooter equivalent to Smash Bros, mashing up gameplay from different shooters, i.e. Team 1 plays like Doom, 2 plays like Halo, 3 Gears, etc., etc. The friendly neighborhood blue shell says 60 frames or death. Yes, please. 60 frames or death. We definitely need it here. God, 60 frames is so amazing. I can't believe everybody was like when it was, nobody knew if it was going to be like a standard. Everyone was like, oh, I appreciate 30 frames. I like the cinematic feel. Shut your mouth. It's all about frame rate. It's all about how games perform, not necessarily how they look. Like, give me frame rate over resolution every day of the week. Like, that's
I went to a 30 FPS game recently, like after playing 60 frames games for so long. And I was like, my God, is this what 30 frames per second look like? I thought there was something wrong with my TV. I was like, do I need to put game mode on or something? Like,
mm-hmm.
it's funny.
Mr.
But like my PC, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, Mr. Mike says, hey, Rand and Jez, thank you both for the advice on the LG CX. I purchased it, and I'm getting it next week. Thanks again. Dude, you're going to have your mind blown. Make sure you go to, like, artratings.com or different websites to get it calibrated properly, so it looks good. And make sure you turn on VRR on the Xbox. Make sure you also set it to auto-dim after 2 minutes because you don't want to get burn-in. I baby my CX. Like, I only have it on when I'm playing or when I'm watching something, and if I'm away from it and it's on, I have the Xbox auto dim it after 2 minutes. So I really don't want to get burned in. But they have a lot of features to prevent that. So what were you saying, Jess? Sorry, I cut you off there. But this guy really liked the show.
I was just saying that, like, my when I was reviewing Evil Genius 2, I was at like 120 frames per second or higher because my laptop has a 300 hertz panel, which is like just overkill maybe. But like even that, it's like, will we eventually think 60 FPS is filmic, Rand?
I mean, if eventually everything becomes 120, yeah, because I've experienced 120 to 60, and let me tell you, 60 feels janky when you've been playing 120 frames. When I went from Rocket League to Destiny 2, I could definitely feel it. Shout out to Face with another super chat. He says, the same way Xbox fans don't want Xbox to do the same thing as Sony in terms of their games is the same way I'd rather Sony does something different than copying Game Pass and have a different approach. Well, you could be right. Maybe Sony's going to do their own thing. But at the end of the day, it's business for Sony. It's about making money, and they're going to do whatever's best for their bottom line. Whether or not, you like it or anybody else likes it. They're going to do what's best for Sony. And my man Punkadish says, frames all day over resolution. Really enjoying the show, fellas. Thank you. So if you guys are enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button and still share this out on social media. Let's see if we can get, 800 likes before the show ends or something. We're over 500. We'd appreciate all the support we can get on the show with all the likes. So yeah, you got anything else you want to say about Outriders before we talk about these juicy topics, which I think it's going to be great. Can't wait.
Yeah, I just hope that Square Enix sorts out their dumb account system or whatever. But the game's really solid, and I think it's a really good, springboard. And I'm just kind of happy for People Can Fly. Like, they haven't really done a huge amount of stuff since like Bulletstorm and that. So I'm just kind of happy that they kind of got a hit on their hands right now, even if like Square Enix is screwing it up for them a little bit.
Yeah, it has a huge launch on PC, right? I like the biggest Square Enix launch ever on PC, like dwarfing Avengers. Yeah. Avengers, which came with like the biggest IP in the world potentially. The Marvel characters, Iron Man, all that stuff, right? On the heels of Endgame and everything. 32,000 concurrent was the high, and I think Outriders peaked at like 120,000. That's crazy, isn't it?
Yep.
It goes to show you how big of a probably travesty Avengers is. And I wonder if they're trying to be like, hey, Microsoft, can we get that game in Game Pass? Honestly, Avengers, you know what they should do with that? They should make that game free to play. I don't know why they haven't already. Maybe it's some sort of contract where they have to sell it at full price. But it definitely seems like that game needs to be free to play to get traction or something. We have Tom Legg saying, I'll take 4K and or ray tracing and or more on screen over 60 FPS every day in every single genre, though I definitely prefer when dev gives options. So it's interesting. There's, people like different things. For me, it's all about frame rate, but for Tom, he likes the higher resolution, the ray tracings. He wants to see max out the hardware, and it's definitely interesting. Is anybody else like Tom in the chat where you prefer the resolution and ray tracing over frame rate? And if so, what are your reasons? I prefer the frame rate I always have. So,
I mean, it is a fact that Outriders isn't the prettiest or most detailed game I've ever seen. It's like it has like pretty impressive vistas and stuff when you look out across the valley or whatever, but it's not as pretty. It's nowhere near as pretty as Gears of War, for example. I don't see why Gears couldn't literally jack that format and still maintain 4K 60 or whatever they do. So I prefer ray tracing over frame rate for a single player game, personally.
All right.
Filmic experience, man.
The filmic experience, indeed. All right, so I'm gonna finish up Outriders. We'll talk more about that whenever I do. Although I think Colt's going on vacation, so I won't be playing it until he gets back.
Play with me.
Well, we don't play at the same time though. That's the problem. You're not on when I'm on, and when you're on, I'm not on. So that's the problem. Me and you got opposite schedules. So
man,
let's start talking about these juicy topics. Make sure you guys hit the like button. What do you want to start with here first, Jez?
It's up to you, man.
Well, no, it's up to you. Like, what do you want to talk? You know what? I'm gonna give a little interesting topic, or one that I think is super interesting. It's get me super pumped before we get into the big ones. Did you see the one and only Grubmeister, Jeffrey Grubb, basically saying in his podcast that Alan Wake 2 is the game that Remedy's making with Epic? And
I did see that. That's intriguing.
And that there was a bidding war for that title. And I do have to wonder who was in on the bidding, who wanted Alan Wake 2. It couldn't have been Xbox, right? Because Xbox obviously had many chances, very documented, of doing an Alan Wake 2, and Microsoft didn't want to, and that's why Quantum Break existed. So I do wonder who was competing for it. But honestly, I'm so excited that Remedy is going to be doing Alan Wake 2. I think when Alan Wake 1 came out in 2011, or maybe it was 2010. I think it was 2010. So finally, Alan Wake 2 potentially coming in a couple years, published by Epic.
Couple of years?
I mean,
a couple of years?
Probably, I would assume so. A couple years, right? Two years? What, you think?
It's pretty optimistic.
I mean,
how long was the dev cycle for Alan Wake 1?
I don't know, but I mean, they turned around Control pretty fast, didn't they?
Yeah, but Control is Control, man. I think at least 3 years. I would think.
Well, either way,
because you remember the end of Alan Wake, right?
Yes.
They've got a lot of explaining to do.
They do.
that game has to be like pretty detailed and pretty. I don't know. It can't like Controls. I felt Control and Quantum Break both were quite simple compared to Alan Wake overall in terms of like content and plot delivery and stuff like that. Do you remember that scene in Alan Wake with the dudes playing the guitars? Oh man, Alan Wake's was such a cool game. It's wild that Microsoft didn't like want to make a sequel, I guess, but that's also kind of not surprising.
It's not surprising.
But at the same time, I think Epic's a great choice for that because Epic has tons of money. They're willing to take they're sort of in a mode where they're like, yeah, we'll take a risk on a popular IP. Well, it's not a risk to them because they're swimming in cash from Fortnite and the Unreal Engine. So they're kind of like, we just want exclusive content for our storefront, which, goes to bat against Steam in all of its, futility. But whatever, we're getting Alan Wake 2 out of it. Hopefully that means it will also come to Xbox and PlayStation and stuff like that. I expect that it probably will.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's only good on PC. It's only going to be on the Epic Store, but they're going to sell it on console. They're going to sell it on PlayStation, Switch, if it can, or Switch Pro, and the Xbox. Although I do wonder if the game will be revealed at a PlayStation show, because I can imagine, Epic and PlayStation have that partnership, right? And that certainly would be like, oh, Alan Wake 2 at a PlayStation show. That would kind of grab some headlines, right?
Yeah, true that.
But I'm really excited. I'm glad they're getting to make the sequel. I know they teased a little bit of that in the Control DLCs. Super pumped that Alan Wake 2 is apparently coming back, says the one and only master insider Jeff Grubb of VentureBeat. But
I
now,
want to be Jeff Grubb when I grow up.
yeah, Jeff Grubb is so cool. His hair, I want to have his hair, like that long, flowing, luxurious hair. Because my hair is really long right now. I haven't gotten a cut yet, and I need to. And his just looks.
Tie it up, man.
Great.
Like, I just tied my hair up.
Yeah.
Nice little bun.
All right. Lettuce, shout out to Predator. He says, Rand, do you think Microsoft put a clause in place for Alan Wake 2 so that if it was made, it would come to Xbox since they gave up the IP back to Remedy? I'm not sure they gave it up or because they weren't doing anything with it, it just reverted back to Remedy. We'll just have to wait and see. I think it's going to be on every platform except for Steam. But that's my hope at least. It doesn't matter if it's exclusive to PlayStation. I'm playing it. I mean, hell, if it was exclusive to the Epic Store, I guess I'm playing it on PC. I'm not passing up Alan Wake. I don't care. I would prefer to play it on Xbox. But if it's not coming to Xbox, I'm day one wherever it else goes, even if it's on the freaking Switch. Michael says it's not a lake, it's an ocean. Great ending line. And RDX says Sony fan channels have been saying before yesterday that Infinite will be delayed. Yes, in my eyes, Halo is shaping up to be amazing with Dolby. All right, Jez. Let's talk about Kotaku, shall we? I love this story. Oh, man, it's going to be Kotaku and then right into Game Pass. Dude, because... All right, there's like this... People... gaming outlets look down on YouTubers, right? A lot of them. They look down on YouTubers. One, I think they're jealous because we work for ourselves and they work for a corporation, right? And they think like they have these journalistic standards that us YouTubers don't have to abide by, which is true. But I always try and present everything to the best of my knowledge. I never try to misinform everybody or whatever. Yeah, sometimes I will clickbait the headline a little bit to get more eyes on it, but that's just the way the game is played. But a lot of these journalists think they're better than a lot of the fanboys that post on Twitter, a lot of the YouTubers. So it was hilarious to me to see a Kotaku writer fall for such an obvious fake tweet on the day before April Fools and just make a mockery not only of himself, but also of Kotaku, because someone had to approve that article, right? Because you've explained to me how like Windows Central works. Someone will write the article, and then someone's got to approve it, right? Someone's got to tweet it out.
Not necessarily. Like, when it comes to news, nobody's approving it. Like, it's like a case of get it up fast, but also get it up accurate, So, like, for example, if Sam Tolbert on Windows Central was writing something up, he wouldn't necessarily need approval. Especially if there's nobody around. Like, sometimes news drops in the middle of the night, and if there's someone up, they, don't necessarily need approval. But, it was also the week of April Fools. And I literally said to my team, I said this earlier, but I literally said to my team the day before, keep an eye out for this sort of thing because we don't want to be one of those outlets that get caught out, So, in the rush to cover negative Xbox news, something slipped through the cracks, I guess you could say.
You mean the rush to post that news, the rush to be first, the rush to get those clicks, the rush to get the likes and retweets on your fanboy post, because it wasn't just Kotaku that got fooled. A lot of industry people got fooled. A lot of fanboys got fooled and got screenshotted to basically be laughed at. People that are constantly taking L's just should shut their mouths and not tweet anything because they're just going to be constantly taking even more L's. But like I saw the tweet when it like immediately was in my timeline, right? And I was on my computer and I looked at that and I was like, for a second I was like, wait, did they just delay the game? And I looked at the account closer. I'm like, wait a minute, that's just a 7. That's not even a check mark. I'm like, this is fake. And then I read the actual update and was like, by Chris Lee. I'm like, Chris Lee doesn't even work there anymore. And I was like, no one's gonna fall for this, right? But so many people fell for it. I don't understand. How could somebody writing for Kotaku not spend the extra 10 seconds it would take to verify if this was, number one, a real account, right? Sure, it has the Halo helmet. Sure, the account says Halo and has 343. Like, how could you not actually look at it and see, is this the real Halo account? Oh, no, it's not. It has 10 followers, while their actual account like has a verified check mark and has millions. But what would go through your mind to think, I see this, I need to get it up immediately. I need to get it up now. I need to get this written on Kotaku. I need to be the first one out here. And in your rush, you just make a complete fool of not only yourself, but of your, your outlet. Like, what is going on here? I don't understand. Like, it was clearly a fake tweet. Like, how could you not give it any more, like, a second glance over? Like, what the hell?
I don't know. I think I don't know how Kotaku works, but like for some sites, I don't think Kotaku writers get paid per click, but some sites do pay writers per click. And if you're like under pressure to like deliver for whatever reason, like, in your rush, you might think, oh, I finally got something, that's going to get a load of traffic. And then you just, have I don't know what to call it, a brain freeze moment or something. So, mistakes happen. But at a time where game journalism is sort of under a microscope and stuff, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. I'm terrified of one day making a mistake like that, which is why like I always double, triple check. Like I think it's worth being 5 minutes or a couple of minutes late to an article, providing you're ensuring that it's accurate, right? I think accuracy is absolutely the most important thing that a journalist, quote unquote, should strive for. And I'm not a trained journalist. I'm a blogger. I was a hobby blogger. I didn't go to journalism school. I didn't even go to college, I just sort of like have sort of an idea about wanting to be accurate, So mistakes do happen, unfortunately. And when you have a big platform like Kotaku, those mistakes get amplified.
Yeah, they certainly do, and you get made fun of, and everybody dunks on you. Xbox had to put out a tweet with that Oprah Winfrey gif. The official Halo account basically called them out. I mean, it was... I don't know how anybody can fall for that. Like, I understand, people get duped sometimes, but usually it's like, okay, it's a fanboy. They didn't take the extra time to see if it was true. Like, I don't know, maybe I expect like these journalists to be a little bit more, have a little bit more, like, I don't know, like double check things before going to print with it, right? And it's funny, if you actually saw the article, it said was, Halo Infinite has been delayed to 2022, according to 343's Industries Twitter. And that was it. It was literally a sentence long, Jez. It was just a sentence long, that link to the tweet. And I couldn't believe that it went up. I was like, no, they actually fell for it. But they weren't the only ones. They weren't the only ones that fell for it. So I mean, I guess a lot of people. I mean, it's true. We've said it on this show. I've said it in my videos. You've said it before. A lot of people only see the headline. They don't read the stories. They just kind of take a glance at it. So if you're just taking a glance at something, you might have been like, oh my God, Halo's been delayed, and then tweet it out trying to get like that negative Xbox news. So your PlayStation buddies can all like retweet it and laugh, right? Only for you to just take huge L's all week, all month, all year, So yeah, Splatum says, have you guys seen the esports boxing club game? Any idea if it'll play as good as it looks? Been waiting for the next great boxing game since Fight Champion. I see the picture of it, but I have not seen it in motion. It does make you wonder why there hasn't been a new Fight Night game in quite a bit. I mean, I know they're doing the UFC thing, but yeah. And we're almost at 600 likes, guys, so make sure you hit that like button. Saji Caesar says, who else fell for it? Name and shame. Nah, I don't like naming and shaming. But I shared a couple. I shared a couple with Jez. We had a good laugh about it for people who fell for it, right, Jez?
Oh yeah. It was like some YouTubers and stuff did. But...
YouTubers,
that's the thing,
press
like,
outlet.
People are like they're like so excited for something negative about Xbox that they don't even double check, and it just makes them look dumb. And it kind of exposes like their thought process when they see something like that. It's not like, oh my god, is this actually true? It's just, oh yeah, finally an opportunity to dunk on Xbox. So
That's true.
oh well.
All right. Let's talk about Game Pass and its huge week. All right, so it started with Outriders day one on Game Pass. And I saw a tweet from Kid Smooth where when he was playing Outriders, he said that someone in his party basically said he felt like he was stealing, for the first time, stealing from Xbox with how good Game Pass has been. So we all know the Outriders thing. We've talked about it in depth. And then Microsoft made an announcement today that I don't think anybody saw coming. I know a couple people out there did have like predictions on Twitter where it was that it would be funny if MLB The Show came to Game Pass before it ever came to PS Plus and PlayStation Now, that they tweeted out like a year ago or months ago when it was announced for the Xbox, right? And those people ended up being true. So today Microsoft made the big announcement. They could have made this announcement yesterday on April Fool's, but I think they would have been like, we'll just save it for Friday. Nobody would believe us. But yes, MLB The Show, a Sony-developed game by their San Diego studio, is not only coming to Xbox, which we already knew about, but is actually going to be on Game Pass. And it's not just the Xbox One version, it's also the next-gen version. So you can play the Xbox One version, you can play the upgraded Xbox Series X version, which has different features, and you can play those on the cloud. You can play them on Android. I don't think you can even play that game on PlayStation in the cloud. I don't think so. I think it's just, yeah. So obviously there's like a couple ways to look at this. I want you to go first, Jez, because I want to hear what your thoughts are, because we didn't really talk about it. Then I'll give my thoughts, and we'll bounce off back and forth on each other. So what did you think about the announcement today?
Well, first of all, MLB The Show is kind of like, it's not the sports game of Britain, That's
of course, of the UK, yes, we know.
So my scope of knowledge about MLB The Show and baseball and how popular it is kind of limited. But judging from the reaction, and if you go to PlayStation's Twitter, look at their tweets and look at the replies, there is a lot of anger about this. So MLB The Show is clearly a popular game, I would guess. In Britain, we play more civilized sport like cricket. And we talked about this before, Rand. Cricket, which is like baseball but civilized. You have your nice cup of tea while you're playing your cricket. But it's clearly a big win for Xbox, and it's not a good look for Sony. Ultimately,
speak on it, Jez. Speak on it.
I mean, it's not. If you look at the replies, people are really mad, and they're demanding Sony put the game into PlayStation Now for free, or PlayStation Plus, or whatever it is. So people are salty about this, and it's also again shining a spotlight on Sony's hard $70 price point for their games, which Microsoft itself hasn't adopted yet. I'm sure they will eventually. Because if $70 just becomes a standard, then Microsoft will have to do it to compete. But right now, Microsoft's games are $60 baseline still, and Sony's games are $70 baseline, and in some territories they're even more expensive, like $80, $90. If you're doing a direct conversion,
I think it's like $89.99 in Canada, right? Or like $79.99 in Canada or something, or even more expensive in Australia, right?
Yeah. So what you're saying to people who are on a budget, like maybe students and younger kids who don't have as much disposable income and have a lot of free time, you're basically saying to them, you can get 7 months of Xbox Game Pass and all these games, or you can buy MLB The Show outright, And also Microsoft's got the cheaper console with the $300 Xbox Series S, which is ideal for that market. It's starting to, all those sort of expectations we had, and all those detractions about the Xbox Series S console and like, whoa, consumers are going to be confused and all that sort of stuff. All those concerns, quote unquote, they're starting to coalesce into like an actually cohesive strategy that Microsoft's putting out here. Is one of value. That Game Pass is a value play. They're saying, okay, Sony is coming up with lots of quote, hidden charges. You could argue that with extra games costing more, and there's no service that's on par with Game Pass, no service that sort of guarantees that these games will be available. Like with Xbox, you're getting all this value, all this this mountain of value, and it's going beyond it's taking the discourse beyond exclusives, because the exclusives only come, the big AAA tentpole release exclusives, they only come twice a year, maybe 3 times a year at most. All those other months out of the year, it's Game Pass has an opportunity to just be like, oh yeah, here's Game Pass for this month, here's Game Pass for this month, here's Game Pass for this month, and so on and so forth. So um, it's a wicked strategy, and it's really funny. It's getting to the point now where I'm thinking, man, what's the Game Pass announcement going to be next week? No longer like we're not waiting months and months for these drops anymore. They're coming in constantly, and I think what that proves is that there are so many subscribers that are constantly paying into Game Pass now that Microsoft can afford to keep reinvesting that money into keeping Game Pass in the public consciousness and the discourse. So, like, if you assume the last time Microsoft shared Xbox Game Pass figures, it was at 18 million subscribers. Let's just assume, for the sake of argument, that all of those subscribers are paying just £10 a month, $10 a month. They're not paying for the $15. Although they hinted that most people are actually paying for the Game Pass Ultimate. But let's just assume that they're only paying $10 a month, and also because it's easier to do the math. So that's $180 a month Microsoft has to spend on this stuff, and you reinvest in growing the platform. And like, if they're in a growth phase, they've got $180 at least to play with. And in reality, it's going to be more than that, because a lot of people are going to be on Game Pass Ultimate, which is $15 a month. So it's really exciting just watching how well this works, because there was so much skepticism around. The games press was skeptical. They were saying like,
it's not financially viable. Game Pass doesn't make any money, right? Like that whole argument. Like
they were thinking of it in terms of Netflix, but Netflix has so much more overheads than Game Pass. Like, Netflix has to pay Amazon a ton of money for streaming 4K video, and Netflix doesn't have microtransactions. Netflix doesn't have DLC expansions. Netflix doesn't have retail versions of those games. So, like, when a game leaves Game Pass, like, for example, Outriders is probably not going to be in Game Pass forever. Let's assume, just for the sake of argument, I have no idea how long Outriders is going to be there, but let's assume Outriders is going to be there for 3 months, and Outriders is there for 3 months, and at the end of those 3 months, that could be like, okay, the first expansion is dropping now, and by the way, we're leaving Game Pass. So a lot of those people who really, really like Outriders are going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to buy the game now. And also, for games that are leaving Game Pass, you get 20% off. So there's even more value there. So even with Game Pass as a vehicle to access these games, there's still a retail component, which is something Netflix doesn't have. Netflix doesn't have any retail. Like, you can't buy, to my knowledge, you can't go and buy Stranger Things on DVD. And even if you could, why would you?
You can.
Why would you? Oh, you can. Well,
yeah,
why would you though? Because it's why would you?
Well, better visuals. Like better bit rate. So it actually looks better, than streaming. But yeah, we get your point. We understand what you're saying about that.
I don't even know. But yeah, like, even still, it's like they're not gonna pull Stranger Things off Netflix because it adds value, and they've got so much competition from Disney Plus and stuff like that. So really, one of the things Netflix needs to think about is the upsell. You know, when we're talking about Netflix as a business, Netflix's business viability is the upsell. Disney Plus has got this whole premiere thing now, where you pay like an extra fee on top of the Disney Plus subscription, and you get those movies early or something. The Disney Plus premiere, whatever it is. But while the streaming services are scrambling to try and figure out ways to monetize, Xbox doesn't have to do that because gaming is just so much better for this kind of format. You've got the DLC and the microtransactions and all that stuff that I talk about. And also it drives a halo effect over the game. So for people who don't have Xbox Game Pass and for people who do want to collect the discs, the fact that everyone's talking about Outriders now and they're streaming it and stuff, that drives retail sales. Like Xbox has literally been out here and said, we found that the opposite has happened, that people want to buy our games even more if they're in Game Pass because more people play them and then they get, FOMO, which is why even though Sea of Thieves was in Game Pass the whole time, it topped the charts on Steam all last summer. It topped the charts on Steam all last summer, even though it was in Game Pass, which is something Netflix just can't do. Like Netflix is never going to top the charts with any of its content on Steam and stuff like that. So when people compare it to Netflix and Netflix's financial troubles or whatever, if they even have any still, it's a lazy comparison because the business is so much more diverse. It's so much different. It's similar but different, and the gaming business is so much more diverse. And this was an amazing, thing that Xbox did. And frankly, it's almost like, why didn't they do this even earlier? In some ways. But this is, the future of Xbox is.
Well, yeah, we've been saying that for a long time. Game Pass is the platform. The console's just the way to access it, PC, mobile, and all that stuff. I got a really spicy take on this. I'm going to read some of these super chats first before we get into it, because this is going to be a good one. Red Cloud Gamer says, no new fight night due to a very complicated landscape with boxers' likenesses. UFC owns the rights to all their fighters, so it's easier for that. I actually did read about that at some point. Chiefman says, John from Spawnwave literally just tweet, put MLB 2021 on PS Plus Sony. And, I mean, you think maybe they have to. RDX says, in Canada, game prices are $20 more already. And the Glitch Doctor says, speaking of pricing, I would like to play Demon Souls on my PS5, but it costs 80... what is the monetary value called? 80... what's it in Germany, Jez? 80...
euros.
80. Oh, okay. Is that euros? I'm sorry. I didn't. I thought maybe
you think it was. They haven't used Deutschmarks since like.
Well, I mean, I didn't really notice. I mean, I don't know what this little. I'm sorry. I'm from the U.S. I only really it's American dollars or some countries have their different currency. I totally forgot that Germany uses the euro. So 80 euros are worth more than $93. No thanks. Basement Radio Arcade, Brap. Enrique says, great point, Jazz. Gaming is different. So here's my take on all this, right? This really puts Sony in a bad spot. Like, this honestly, let's assume for a second here that Sony doesn't put this game on PS Plus. They've already announced the games for PS Plus, right? It's Oddworld, Soulstorm, it's Days Gone, and it's Zombie Army 4, right? So let's assume that Sony is not putting this game on PS Now or PS Plus, because they probably would have already if they would have. Although they were going to launch Destruction All-Stars for $70 before that game got delayed and put into PlayStation Plus when they saw that nobody would buy that, right? So let's assume it doesn't get put into a subscription service. Microsoft just kind of made PlayStation look like fools. Honestly. Like, not only did Microsoft, but MLB made PlayStation look like fools. Because this really shines the spotlight on the differences between what Xbox is doing and what PlayStation is doing regarding pricing and regarding content on the platform. And what speaks louder than anything? It's price. It's what people care about. Sure, your hardcore fanboys will always gravitate toward the exclusives. I need my exclusives, the God of Wars, the Fables, the Halos, and stuff like that. But everybody else who don't have that, horse in the race, they'll be looking at it like, where am I going to be playing these third-party games? Where my friends are playing? And since Outriders has crossplay, and since MLB Show has crossplay, you're really not losing your friends. Like, you could have somebody, you could get it on Xbox and play with your friends on PlayStation, or vice versa if money matters that much to you, right? Game Pass is a market disruptor. That is the whole point of it. The whole point of Game Pass is to put a spotlight on your competitors' outdated business practices of selling their games for $70 when you can come over to our platform and play these games for a cheap monthly price. And I know I say free, but that's what everybody thinks. I already subscribed to Game Pass. I'm getting this game at no additional cost, right? So Game Pass is going to change people's minds. The more they do this, the more Xbox puts their own titles in there. When Elder Scrolls 6 gets announced and is Xbox PC only Game Pass day one, people are going to flip their shit, right? I don't think people realize this yet. But when I say that this makes PlayStation look like fools, because this is a PlayStation developed game. They've been working closely with MLB for the past 10, 15 years on this franchise, right? They're the only ones who make a baseball game. And so whether or not MLB demanded Sony put this game on multiple platforms, probably. They want more money. MLB sees how successful NBA 2K is and FIFA and Madden with all that stuff being everywhere. They probably wanted this piece of the pie. So, okay, we'll put the game on Xbox. I guarantee you Sony didn't want that to happen. But they went even one step further. Microsoft is like, not only are we going to take your exclusive from your platform, we're going to give it away for free. So what did you see today on social media? You see a bunch of PlayStation fans, and not even really toxic ones, not even really the bad fanboy ones, right? The ones who damage control for PlayStation and the ones who constantly hate Xbox for whatever reason, right? You see the reasonable ones looking at it and saying to themselves, this is a slap in the face. I feel like I just got slapped in the face by Sony. Not so much because of what Xbox is doing, because of what PlayStation isn't doing, right? So you have these PlayStation guys who've been supporting, MLB The Show for years, and they've been buying it $60 every single year. One of the best, baseball games out there, well, the only baseball game out there, but one of the highest rated games, or sports games out there. And they're constantly getting it. So if you're on the PlayStation 5, you're thinking, I'm going to get this game. And it ends up being $70 on PlayStation 5 or $60. They don't even have a free upgrade path. Keep this in mind. With this announcement, you get both the Xbox One version and the Xbox Series X version. So you get both. And you can play them in the cloud. If you want to play either of one of those games, you have to either spend $60 for the PS4 version or $70 for the PS5 version. And if you want them both, you have to buy the Jackie Robinson edition for $85, right? So Microsoft basically threw a shot at PlayStation via MLB, showing everybody just how outdated Sony's own business practices are, to the point where PlayStation fans are saying, we feel slapped in the face. We've supported you forever. And now these people on another platform, these people who have never supported your game, are getting it for $1? What about us? What about the PlayStation fans who've been here and supported this, right? But even more interesting than that is the fact that this deal could happen. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, Sony's been working with MLB on this stuff for years. And the first time it goes multi-platform, Xbox somehow slides in and gets the deal done, which means it wasn't in any of the contracts where they said they couldn't do it. So was Sony outplayed here? Maybe. And then there's the whole discussion online about, this is MLB. Sony had nothing to do with this. MLB was the one who took the money. It doesn't matter who was involved with the decision. It doesn't matter if MLB took that bag of cash. It doesn't matter if Sony took that bag of cash. What matters is the perception. And you can take it back to the Xbox One era. What was the perception about? Xbox had no games. Xbox had DRM. Perception is a killer, right? And the perception is that games are just more expensive on PlayStation, and Sony doesn't give a fuck what you think about it because they think you're going to buy it no matter what. They think that our fans will spend $70 here, and we're not going to throw them a bone. Of course, assuming this doesn't come to PlayStation Plus at some point, because it could. But I don't think it will. Mainly because, and let's just work under the assumption that MLB is the one making this deal. Because if you do look at the store page on Xbox, MLB is the publisher, right? So maybe Microsoft paid them, right? And that's why Microsoft obviously paid somebody to get it on there. But the point is, if MLB is the publisher on Xbox and Sony is the publisher on PlayStation, who's paying Sony to put their own game on PlayStation Plus for free? Nobody. Nobody is. It's their own studio. They're not getting a check from anybody to put their game away for free in PlayStation Plus. They're going to sit there and they're probably going to eat the bad press. And of course, this whole thing will probably look bad if Sony eventually announces it for PS Plus. I'm not saying they will or they won't because I don't know. But right now I'm thinking they won't because they probably think, the bad PR is nothing. It doesn't even matter. Most people won't even know that Xbox has the game and that it's in Game Pass on day one. People have been playing on, this version on our platform for years already, right? They're just going to continue to buy it. And maybe Sony's right in that regard. But the fact that this deal exists and they're wanting blockage stopping it, the fact that a lot of PlayStation fans are looking at Sony today like, what the heck are you doing? You're giving them handouts and you're slapping us in the face. It was such a beautiful moment because this is going to happen more and more throughout the generation. It's going to happen more and more through this year. The whole idea, and I know I may be repeating myself, is that Game Pass is going to allow people to play more games and play without spending as much money. It's stark contrast to PlayStation, where you want to play there, you basically have to spend $70 per game. Now, will that affect anything? Will that affect consumers' buying habits down the road? Potentially. That's why I call it a market disruptor. It could disrupt it. Maybe it won't. But if this happens more and more often, people are going to look at it and be like, it's just not worth buying third-party games on PlayStation. I'm going to go subscribe to Xbox Game Pass because in the long run, it's going to save me money. So anybody that was going to buy Outriders and MLB The Show just saved themselves $130 by subscribing to Game Pass this month. And if you subscribe to Game Pass for an entire year, it's $180. So you basically saved an entire year's worth of content, and you don't even know what's coming next month and the month after. And we still have all the Xbox games that are eventually going to announce and drop. Do you see what I'm trying to get at? Do you see the picture I'm trying to paint here? I mean, I don't know, but like this was bigger than Outriders to me. I know Outriders is a big thing, but Microsoft taking Sony's game and giving it away to free and having PlayStation fans second guess themselves about how much they're worth to PlayStation is just beautiful. It's just beautiful. I don't know how else to even, say that right now, right? I mean,
it's as a sort of like, man, it's like a multifaceted move. It's like, yeah, Outriders hitting Game Pass, like you say, is great, but that's all it is. It's all it is great. This is sort of, it's like you say, it's a bit of a slap in the face to Sony. And also, no matter what Sony does now, it's going to be reactionary. It's going to make them look like they're on the back foot and they're reacting to what Xbox is doing and validate whatever Xbox is doing. So it's going to be tough for them to come out unscathed from this in some way, looking at the replies on Twitter and stuff. People are really mad. And a lot of people are laying blame at one Jim Ryan.
Yeah, Jim Ryan.
And this is sort of like, this is the situation you don't want to be in when you're running a company where you get to a point where you've had a string of bad decisions in a row. You start to lose, people start to lose faith, right? And in some ways, the way Phil Spencer is a figurehead for Xbox, people even though Jim Ryan would very much like to not be in the spotlight, judging by how little he actually engages on Twitter, because of the way Phil Spencer deals with things and the way Phil Spencer engages, people are comparing Jim Ryan to Phil Spencer, and in terms of standards and stuff. But a lot of people are comparing Jim Ryan to Don Matrick lately.
Don Matrick, yes, I've been seeing that.
Ooh, that's not super good, So, and also Sony's also coming off a lot of bad will about shutting down PlayStation 3, Vita, and PSP storefronts. For full accuracy, I believe that you will, if you own those games digitally, you will still be able to download them and access them. I think Sony's confirmed that. I think. Could be
yes,
wrong,
they did. They did confirm that if you have bought those games, you'll be able to re-download them. Yes.
Yeah, but there are some developers out there that have gone on record saying like they stand to lose thousands of dollars, and they've upset a bunch of people, and also it also shines a spotlight on the delta between Sony and Xbox when it comes to legacy content. And if we are moving to a digital first world, you want to have the confidence that your digital purchases are gonna be honored into the future and stuff like that. So I think Microsoft is they had a bit of a blip with the whole Xbox Live Gold thing. But they've got constant stream of good news right now, whereas Sony's sort of in the opposite direction. So, and it's like you say, what's going to happen next month with Game Pass? What's going to happen next week with Game Pass? That's kind of like the excitement they're building around that brand now, which is really, really cool to see. And the more people subscribe to Game Pass, the more things like this are going to happen, because Microsoft is probably investing 100% of the money they earn from Game Pass back into growing it right now, because they're in a growth phase or whatever. So the more you get your friends to subscribe to Game Pass, the more crazy shit like this is going to happen. So
yeah,
it's really fun. It's a really fun time to be an Xbox.
Did you enjoy that rant, Jez?
I did. It was a good solid rant. 8.5 out of 10.
8.5 out of 10. Gunstar says physical media lost its collector's value for me as soon as patches became a thing in the console space. Relish GT says, I thought Game Pass was bad for business. Those people, see, like I said, don't take business advice from people who can't even balance their own checkbook. I mean, that whole war cry, like, I don't know if you've seen that, like, forever physical, like, cancel Game Pass on Twitter, like, that's been going around because of how good it's been. And I think a lot of those guys feel threatened. They feel threatened. Like, it's interesting to think about, right? Like, if you're one of those dudes and you're all about PlayStation and PlayStation's dropping these amazing Game of the Year exclusives, like nobody's taking that away from you, but you constantly feel the need to downgrade Xbox and, joke around about it, about how bad the platform was, et cetera, right? You're joking. But now it's not so much joking. Now I get a sense it's fear. They're terrified. They're afraid that, holy cow, for the first time, Microsoft is 100% behind Xbox. They're willing to spend millions of dollars to make the brand look better. They bought all these studios. They're going to have more games, more exclusive games than PlayStation. And they're going to have a whole bunch of games on Game Pass that, only benefits you because you don't have to spend money to play them. And if you do want to buy them, you get a discount. And they look at it as like, they're afraid. Because what happens if Xbox succeeds in that manner, forces Sony to change, because that is the future? And then people would be laughing at them, being like, look at Sony, the first place market share, company out there following the lead of the loser, because that's the market cry, right? Like all those guys would be saying, PlayStation would never follow, the loser, but like a lot of their moves really do like they're paying attention to Xbox. So why are those making their moves? Maybe it's because Xbox is just ahead of the game on this, and it's going to take Sony a little bit more time to pivot. But yeah, don't take business advice to people who can't balance their checkbooks. Artemis says, can we get a Rand emoji because this is fire? I'm glad you enjoyed it. Alexander Dark says, let me find it. I lost it here. Let's see. Man, I lost this. This gives me hope Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo come to Game Pass PC this year. I mean, it's possible. We'll have to wait and see. XS Effect says, it's okay, Rand. PlayStation has Evo. Laugh out loud. They did buy... Well, here's the thing. I'll throw PlayStation guys a bone, okay? They bought Evo, and what did I say? What did I say when they bought Evo, Jez? What did I say? You remember what I said on the podcast? My first thought when they bought Evo, my gut feeling. Do you remember what I said?
Street Fighter.
I said,
exclusive.
Yeah, Street Fighter 6. I would not be shocked that Sony went out and purchased Street Fighter 6 and made it exclusive to the PlayStation ecosystem, PS4, PS5, whenever that does come out. And I wouldn't be shocked if they buy a fighting developer as well. But yeah, I would not be shocked if Street Fighter did not come to Xbox. Paul says Xbox has your games. Flame says, I'm just picturing Phil laughing all day today. I actually sent Phil a DM, and he just replied back with a thumbs up. I'm sure he's probably getting a bunch of messages, but just a thumbs up. Thanks for reading my DM, Phil. Basement Radio Arcade Podcast says, Microsoft is presenting a choice. Pay $70 or pay $15 a month for that $70 game, plus hundreds of other games. This move has me second-guessing Sony, too. That's what a market disruptor will do, man. And the more Microsoft does this, the more doubt it puts into, potential purchasers. And think about it. This is the start of a new generation. This isn't like, the PS4 has 120 million and we're just continuing. Like, the consoles are out now. You're starting from scratch. You're starting from zero. You can't even buy the consoles right now, right? So the more Xbox does this, the more they're in the news, the more people start to realize that things may change. That person may decide to buy a new console. With crossplay going on, if you buy an Xbox and not a PlayStation, you can play with your friends. It doesn't really matter where you play with anymore. Yeah, some things,
This is the opportunity Microsoft has this year. Like, the semiconductor shortage, on the one hand, is annoying because they can't sell consoles. But on the other hand, neither can Sony. So this is basically a free year that Microsoft can push Xbox and just try to change people's minds who haven't decided or simply can't because there's no stock which generation to upgrade to next. And we often see these times when the generations flip. Like, a lot of people flipped from Xbox 360 to PS4 because of the disaster of 2013's Xbox One reveal. And how much that damaged the brand and stuff like that. And now we're seeing like a whole year where Microsoft has this opportunity to build up Xbox and build up the value of Xbox Game Pass, which is always going to be there to the point where when the semiconductor shortage abates, if it abates, and stock resumes more, consistently for PlayStation, Xbox Series S and X, then Microsoft will be well placed to start stealing people potentially from the other platform. But I do think that ultimately the truth is that Xbox's growth is going to mainly be on PC and mobile with Game Pass, but it can't hurt, right? It can't hurt to build this sort of this image of value behind your brand, especially at right now at the start of the gen, right now during a semiconductor shortage. So if they are going to do this, and if they are going to go hard on Game Pass, now is the time to do it at the start of the gen.
Exactly, 100%. Jose says, do you think Sony had any idea Xbox MLB had this planned? Tough to say because we weren't in the boardroom. We don't know who Microsoft paid. We don't know if it was MLB. We don't know if it was Sony. And anybody telling you that, is just lying to you. I know there's people basically damage controlling that all over Twitter, right? I don't know how you damage control this, but people will try, right? People always damage control for their favorite brands when shit goes wrong. I will say though, I don't think Sony really appreciates one of their partners like MLB putting them in this bad of a spotlight. This is really bad optics for PlayStation. And it's basically because MLB potentially took that deal from Xbox, right? Because let's imagine the other scenario, okay? For a hypothetical second here, let's imagine that it was Sony that Microsoft made this deal with. So Sony was like, yes, we're willing to put our first-party game that we make, that we have cultivated over the last 15 years, day one into your service for your fans to enjoy, but we won't do the same for our fans in our service. Isn't that pretty sad when you think about it? If that was the case, I understand. Microsoft probably had to drop a pretty penny for it, but it's actually worse if you think Sony was the one getting the money for this and not MLB. You know what I mean? Either way, I bet you Sony is not happy today. They're probably really pissed off if they didn't know about it, because one of their partners that they've been working with for a long time, basically, I mean, they got clowned. They got clowned by Xbox and MLB on this one. I'm sorry. You go read the responses to any of the PlayStation tweets that they've been tweeting since this announcement, and everybody's talking about it in the tweets. What does it matter? Your game's on Xbox. Xbox is a better platform for PlayStation games. Not only is the game on Xbox, but it's cheaper on Xbox, and it's a first-party. I would expect the same sort of reaction if Xbox took Halo 5 or Hellblade 2 or Forza Horizon 5 and put it on PlayStation and put it in PlayStation Plus and didn't have it in Game Pass. You would see the exact same reaction from Xbox fans. What are you doing, Microsoft? How could you put it on the other platform and then give it to them for free when we've been the ones over here supporting you and we have to pay full price? It'd be very similar. Dark Sia says, does anyone see Mark Cerny 1 year? He went missing. Waddleman91 says, Sony should have made a bigger deal with MLB to keep it exclusive like Sony did with Marvel for Spider-Man. Mr. Squean says, good one, Rant Al Thor. I like that little name, Rant Al Thor. Mr. Miracle says, can it really be a market disruptor when Xbox is still the third place supplemental console? Didn't PlayStation just post revenue profit that doubled Xbox and Switch? But that's where we say it's a potential market disruptor. And yeah, I mean, it may or may not be. It could essentially disrupt the market. And I don't think anybody here is saying that suddenly PlayStation will just not be number one overnight, but you could imagine potentially more. Xbox also posted, the most revenue it ever had before, but it is, like we mentioned, a new start of the gen, and people make purchasing decisions. I mean, people love the 360 and then switched to the PlayStation 4. Stuff like this happens. And just because something was going good in the past doesn't mean it's continuing to go good in the future, right? That's the hot hand fallacy. Just because something's going really good now doesn't mean it's always going to continue to be really good. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it because it's going to get me in trouble, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. Pixelbit G says, kind of genius for Xbox to push Play Anywhere and cross-platform last gen, huh? Yep. Worrywart. What? The Worrywart is back? Holy cow. Good to see you, man. Haven't talked to... Yeah, Worrywart. I did TXR with him a long time. I always appreciated Worrywart's opinions on stuff. Good to see you back, man. I know you deleted Twitter and everything, but he says, everything looking good. I just need one game from first party that is single player and of the same quality of Sony, and I'm stopping worrying. Cognito says the same thing as you. He just wants that one game from Xbox first party that is your typical third person over the shoulder cinematic game, and he just wants one. And maybe Xbox will make it. I mean, they do have a bunch of different studios, so. But I mean, worry when
Hellblade is that game.
It's possible. It's possible Hellblade could be that game. I mean, when you left Worry, I mean, Xbox was in a different position than it certainly is right now in 2021. So glad to have you back, man. Let's see here. I think that's it for this one. So yeah, definitely a very interesting Friday. Did not expect this announcement, and it's going to go crazy because who knows what other announcements Microsoft has up their sleeves. Now, I want to kind of contrast this a little bit here with Xbox Games with Gold, Because while Game Pass is riding high and making all these announcements, Xbox Games with Gold has been not very good, Jez. People seem to be very frustrated by the lack of quality titles in the service, especially when you compare it to its direct competitor, PlayStation Plus. I think this month we got like Dark Void and Hardcore Uprising on the 360, and I think it was like some Vikings game and Truck Racer on the Xbox Games with Gold, but on PlayStation they got, Days Gone, they got Oddworld. Last month they got Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's a very stark contrast between Games with Gold and PS Plus, just like it is between PlayStation Now and Game Pass. Is there anything that Xbox can do to make it better? Does Xbox even care? Because, they are sort of moving away from the whole Xbox Live branding in a way. Like, is this all about, like, we're not bothering to spend any money here, so we're just going to take these cheap games. We're going to spend all of our money in Game Pass because that's what matters. What's going on with this, Jez?
Just let it die.
Just let it die?
Just let it die. I know, like, some people like the whole Games with Gold thing, like you get digital games to own or whatever, but I just rather see that time and effort go into Game Pass at this point. Like, the games have been pretty bad generally for months now, and Xbox Live Gold just feels like this thing that is just, man, it just reminds me of outdatedness. The whole thing, the whole brand Xbox Live Gold just screams of being outdated. Games with Gold is old and bad. Deals with Gold is still pretty good, but it's kind of like, who cares? I got Game Pass. No. Speaking of deals with Gold, by the way, Microsoft's Spring Sale is going on right now, and some people are getting
I did
free
see that
$10 from Xbox.
So everybody, if you're listening right now, check your Xbox Live messages, because some people are getting a code from Microsoft for $10 that you could potentially spend in the summer sale. I did see that on Twitter. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy. I did check my messages to see if I got it, but I didn't.
I probably did. I don't get anything from Xbox. It's like they gave me the Xbox Series X for free for review, and they're like, "Nah, we're done with you, Rand. You don't get anything else." Which is fine. Like, I never expect free stuff to be handed to me.
The fridge?
No, I don't care about the fridge.
You want the fridge, right? Well, we're all going to get fridges soon.
I cared about the fridge. Would have been cool to get, not because the fridge is cool, and it's because I wanted to be retweeted by The Rock. I love The Rock. Like, I was a huge WWE fan back when The Rock was popular. Like, if he had retweeted me, I would have been like, okay, this is the peak of my life. It's all just downhill from here, right? But yeah, like, I don't know. What about the fridge? Oh, wait, what topic are we still on? What were we talking about? We're talking about Games with Gold, weren't we?
Yeah, Games with Gold being terrible. I think it's ultimately indicative of the fact that they're gonna scrap it eventually. I think it's inevitable. Xbox Live Gold is gonna be scrapped at some point. It's gonna be like, either they roll the multiplayer paywall into Game Pass, or they just literally just scrap it and whatever. I think I don't think there's gonna be a huge amount of investment in Xbox Live Gold, because don't you just get a sense that they don't care about it anymore? And like, you can infer from that the mentality is it's going to be scrapped. It's all about Game Pass. It's all in on Game Pass. Like, they've even removed the Xbox Live branding from the operating system in some ways. And like, at that point, like, without Xbox Live Gold, without Xbox Live in the OS, it just becomes redundant, completely redundant. So I think they should just scrap it. I think they should, whatever effort they're putting into Games with Gold, just put that into Game Pass. And if they are putting any effort in, but at the same time, maybe it's like, I don't know, a cool way for some indies to get some exposure for some of their games. But why not just put those games into Game Pass, instead of, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Xbox. The whole Xbox Live Gold thing is an archaic practice. I mean, it needs to go away. They need to make multiplayer free, and with these deals, like, if more people are subscribing to Game Pass because Outriders, MLB The Show, and all the other stuff they're making, the faster we'll get there. But I do think they don't care. They don't care about games with gold at all. So it's like we're not going to spend our money here. We're spending all of our money on Game Pass, while PlayStation, on the other hand, doesn't care about PlayStation Now, but they do care about PlayStation Plus. So they're going to spend money to get the big, monthly titles for their service and put stuff in the PlayStation collection because that's the one they care about. And I know some people will be like, just give the free games or free games, whatever. Who cares if they're bad? Blah 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 blah. I'm of the opinion. Sometimes I look at it like these games aren't free, right? We do pay for them. And the quality of the games, sometimes I think like of how bad some of the quality of these titles are, is that what Xbox really thinks of its customers? Like, we're going to give you these not very good games because that's what we think you deserve. You know what I mean? I know that's a little harsh in a way, but like, hey, we have these games, they're free, but they're all terrible. And if you look at the like to dislike ratio, everybody doesn't like it. And it's just like, does Xbox value me as a customer? Because if they did, wouldn't they be giving me more reasons to subscribe and not less? But then I think, well, Game Pass, they're doing it all there. And Games with Gold is just kind of a service that's been bolted on top and is just running on fumes at this point. You know what I mean? So we'll see what it goes. I also agree with you. It'll go away at some point. Bry Guy says it comes down to try having Game Pass on PlayStation Switch. Subs are money. They have the money to back. And Richard says, bold prediction, Perfect Dark and Hellblade 2 blows every first-party game made by PlayStation out of the water. That is not a prediction I will agree with you on. But I do think Hellblade 2 is going to be pretty damn awesome. Nicholas says, where's my Xbox stimulus? I guess he checked his message and didn't have the $10 to buy something in the store. So, yeah, what else do we got here? Did you notice Xbox took a little subtle dig at PlayStation and Nintendo this week, Jez, with the whole back and pat legacy stuff?
Yeah. So this was in a tweet reply from the Xbox account, but it was like, this week was funny because like Sony revealed that they are shutting down PS3, PS Vita, and PSP stores, and also Nintendo killed Mario. They shot him in the face with a gun, and Mario's brains were splattered all over the place, and I love that meme so much. But yeah, Nintendo killed Mario by arbitrarily removing the All-Stars collection, Mario 64, Sunshine and Galaxy, removing that from the Nintendo store for no reason other than to arbitrarily create demand, which is just such a shitty way to treat your customers. But that's Nintendo. That's what Nintendo does. They treat their customers really badly, frankly. But it's just funny that in contrast to that, Microsoft came out on the Xbox Twitter account, replied, I'm paraphrasing, but they said something to the effect of, preserving classic video. Oh, well.
I'll grab the tweet. I'll grab the tweet. They said... here it is. As time goes on, it becomes more important than ever that we ensure gaming icons and classics are preserved for new and old players alike. Whether your first time playing Morrowind is from 2002 on your Xbox or 2021 on your phone, we're excited to share these experiences with you. And the reason that tweet stands out is because it's basically a subtle dig at PlayStation for shutting down the PS3 store and removing those PS1 and PS2 games, right, and the Vita games. And then Nintendo for delisting, 3 Mario games, right? Like Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Mario Galaxy, right? So it's basically Xbox saying, like, we won't do that. Like, we value our legacy to the point where not only are we making these older games better with FPS boost, but, like, now you can play these games on your phone if you want to. So definitely, people like Microsoft seems to be the one that values their legacy and their back and pat way more than the other two at this point in time. Will it always be like that? I don't really know. But that cover it though, Jez? Is that kind of the gist of it?
That's the gist of it, right?
That's the gist of it. All right. So let's see. The Twitter poll? Xbox versus Skittles that they ran
Yeah,
yesterday came down
that
to
was
the
hilarious.
wire. And Xbox had to promise a mini fridge if they won. Skittles was promising that they were bringing back lime Skittle, like the lime Skittle flavor, and Xbox won. And now, the Xbox Series X mini fridge will go into production. So my question for you and my question for everybody in the chat. We have, right around 1,500 people watching. If you're enjoying the show, make sure you hit the like button. But will you buy the Xbox Series X mini fridge when it becomes on sale? And what price do you think they will sell it for? So, Jazz, will you buy it? And what price do you think Microsoft will sell it for?
Typically, if we're looking at mini fridges that have about storage for 4 cans of soda pop, 4 cans of soda pop. That's what you guys call it, right?
Yes. Pop. I call it pop. Other people call it soda or
Soda.
whatever.
Soda pop. Yeah, they call it pop here too. We've had this discussion before about soda and pop. But anyway, if the standard mini fridge is it has about as much space for 4 cans of soda, those generally cost about $40 for a decent one. Like maybe a bit more, $50, $60 for like a higher quality one. But then you add in the fact that they're gonna have a special Xbox design and also the Xbox brand. So you can probably add like 100% markup on that. So I think like $100, $150 possibly,
Yeah, that's what everybody.
$150 at the max. I think $99 would be ideal. $99 is probably the most they can get away with without sort of annoying most people. But I personally won't get one because I don't really care so much if my beverages are cold, and also I drink tea most of the time. Even in the summer, I drink warm tea out of the kettle because I'm British and that's what we do, you know. But if I did drink a lot of soda, I probably would get one. But I just don't drink soda really. But
I
who
might
knows,
get
maybe I'll
one.
get lucky and
I might get
they'll
one.
drop one. Oh, yeah.
So I'm renovating where my gaming setup is and my PC setup. I'm renovating this area. We're getting new flooring. So in a couple weeks here, I'll be on vacation basically because I need to move everything. So when I come back, I got a brand new like chair. I'm getting a brand new desk. I'm gonna make this area nice. Potentially, maybe even in the future when I get it all set up, maybe even appear on camera. We'll see about that. I
You're
obviously
gonna get some like RGB lights.
yeah, I
and
might. I mean, obviously,
sound
like
proofing.
I probably won't. It'll take some push to get to, but like, I wouldn't mind having like a little mini fridge to put some stuff in there. I do, I do drink my Propel waters or my Gatorade Zeros and stuff that I could easily reach down in there, and it really depends on the price too. Like, if it's $100, 150, yeah, probably sure. I just bought the headsets that Xbox put out, and I'm not really going to use those very much. So yeah, I would buy one, in this new setup I would have. So I think it's pretty cool that they're making them. I mean, they made the onesies, and people seem to buy those quite a bit. Punka just says, "What type of chair are you going with?" I actually bought the chair already. It's upstairs, but I haven't put it together because I'm moving all the stuff. No, I bought the Maxnomic Xbox branded chair with my name Rand etched on the chair.
How much did that set you back?
$650. Well, okay, so it wasn't my first choice. I wanted to get the Secret Labs Titan XL, but those they wouldn't ship those until June, and I kind of need a better one now. And Miles posted the picture of his chair, and my buddy Maka also has one of their chairs. And he seems to like it, so I was like, whatever. I need a new chair, so I bought one. It's upstairs. Haven't put it together yet, but yeah, it was like $600 or
Gotta
whatever.
post pictures of that, man.
Yeah.
That's like one YouTube video for you, right?
No, I wish it
Just
was one YouTube
a
video for me.
5 minutes worth of a YouTube video
Yeah,
for
5 minutes
Rand
of
and
yeah.
Jez.
I wish when your whole meme of me being a millionaire was true, but it just
Oh,
ain't.
dude, you gotta get on that Raid Shadow Legends
Raid
gravy
Shadow
train,
Legends
man.
did offer me, and I actually accepted one of their promos, and they were gonna pay me $2,500. We negotiated for a like 90-second ad,
Yeah.
and then I saw all their things that they needed for the video, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this. And and I said, I don't got time to play the game, blah blah blah. And the person replied back, you don't need to play the game, just say what we want you to say. And I'm just like, yeah, no, I ain't doing that, sorry. But I haven't
Oh
taken
wow.
any
Great.
sponsorships or on the channel yet. I don't know if I will. But I almost did take the Raid Shadow Legend ones because they came at me with like $2,500 for 90-second spot, and I was just like, I was tempted, Jez. I was tempted. I ain't gonna lie,
Nice.
right? So, but no, I eventually said I would do it, but then I was like, no, I'm not doing it. Sorry.
What you need to do, man, is like
There's a
you need to get
whole
looking
bunch of
at YouTube.
stuff. There's a whole bunch. You need to become a YouTuber, Jez. Is what you need to do. Start up.
Man, man, when I keep losing weight, I'm planning to lose like a good 150 pounds. Like maybe get on camera and be sexy and stuff.
Yeah,
And
people love that.
maybe I will be
Xbox
streaming.
2
Maybe.
with both of us on camera at the same time?
Yeah.
We
Damn,
won't have
maybe like
1,500 people anymore. We'll
Danny.
have 20 people because everyone would just run away for how ugly we are.
Oh, we can wear masks.
Yeah, we could. Like, Opethan says, just here trying to will a Crimson Skies 88 reboot into existence. Campaign, PvE, PvP with 50 playing Royale, and deep customization with years of support. A lot of people would like that, man. And the one and only Dirt Griggity, he says, what a great time to be an Xbox fan. What a night and day difference from last generation. That's what we've been saying, Dirt. How long have we been preaching this? But nobody wants to listen, and finally, people are starting to come around. And I understand the difference between words and actions, but it's like Xbox has been about actions for quite some time now. But people just spout this nonsense, and they don't want to believe because they don't want to believe that Xbox is actually in it this time, that they're spending more than ever, that Microsoft is 100% behind the company. Right? They're fearful. They're scared of what a very powerful Microsoft with an Xbox can potentially do to shift the narrative and change everything. Will it happen? Maybe, maybe not. Someone's probably going to clip this and say, "Oh, it's going to happen." Like, look, it's all speculative, probablys, maybes, who knows? But at the end of the day, the Xbox right now is completely different than the Xbox y'all been making fun of for the last 7 years during the Xbox One generation. And if you're building your channels on YouTube or your Twitter, personality as someone who just craps on Xbox all generation wrong, I have some bad news for you. It's not a good business to be in, buddy. You're gonna get low views. You're not gonna get any subscribers. You're the one that's gonna be laughed at. So, yeah, appreciate the support, Dirt. What else we got here? CD Projekt Red canceling the Cyberpunk 2077 standalone multiplayer game, and it's just kind of bad news after bad news for them, huh?
Aye.
You don't really have anything to say more about the CD Projekt Red stuff, huh?
Man, I'm just kind of like, I'm just waiting for them to sort out the stuff. I tried Cyberpunk 2077 on Xbox again because I reviewed it on PC on good old games launcher, and it was fine. I didn't have any issues. I was playing with DLSS, and I was reading those patch notes and thinking, man, I didn't come across any of these bugs. So I don't know if I was just super lucky, or part of me wonders if the way I played the game made me circumvent a lot of the bugs, because I played the entire game as a netrunner, and I just stood in a corner and killed everything over the internet, and I didn't actually do much shooting, really. I just set people on fire and made them kill each other or made them commit suicide and stuff like that. So that's how I played Cyberpunk, and I think maybe, like, in hindsight, I wish I'd gone back and, really tried to play different play styles to discover more of the meat of the game. But I'm just kind of like, Cyberpunk's such a weird situation to be in. Like, I don't think we've ever seen a developer fall so long and hard from grace. Like people always think about like Sean Murray and Hello Games and No Man's Sky, but they were a small indie dev at the end of the day, and it's a completely different situation where you've got a publicly traded company that basically only puts out a major game once in a blue moon, and for them to like just screw it so badly when it comes to the console versions, particularly after they said, yeah, the console versions are fine. October. They've battered their goodwill. Like they had a lot of goodwill. I gave them the benefit of the doubt really a lot when it came to the bugs on the console versions. I only reviewed the PC version, but I never even considered that the console versions would be completely broken. So I'm just waiting for the game to be fixed to the point where they can just be like, yeah, it's rebooted now. Like, it's just a sad situation,
Yeah.
I guess.
I bet you when that next gen version comes for CD Projekt Red or for Cyberpunk 2077, I bet you that game hits Game Pass that day.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
And that game's still not even back on the PlayStation Store yet, so man, they really fumbled this one. But we're running a little bit long. We're out of topics. I figured we'll take some questions for a little bit. It was a pretty epic show. Hope everybody really enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit the like button if you're new, first time watching the show, or if you just haven't, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. You'll get notified every single time this podcast goes live or whenever I drop a new video. You can always follow me and Jez on Twitter, on screen. Can't wait to see what people think about the show later on that listen on Google Play or Spotify and iTunes and all that stuff. So hit us with your questions. We'll take some time to answer them. And it's been a great show. Yes.
Something interesting just happened.
Uh-oh. More breaking news?
Well, the Xbox store, remember we were bitching about the Xbox app on PC and Game Pass being bad on PC and stuff. And also people not wanting to use the Microsoft Store. Well, Xbox Game Pass just got updated, and now the whole PC store for Windows 10 is now inside the app. And also there's a new library button where you can see all the PC games you have installed and install them from that app and never have to look at the Windows Store ever.
Interesting.
So they are working on it. You can't right click on things and hide games, and there's, I suppose, a lot of missing features when compared to Steam in terms of sorting the games and stuff. But all the PC games that I do own from the Microsoft Store, like mostly random stuff with Xbox Play Anywhere, like Astroneer and Battletoads. I got Everspace. A lot of these games at Xbox Play Anywhere, they're just all there now, which is really interesting.
Very interesting.
So I guess they are working on fixing that stuff, but slow process, I guess.
Yeah. So Clicks Brig. I'm not even going to say the rest of it because I'm just going to stumble over it. Rand, when will you become a VTuber? What's a V? It's a VTuber's like what? Just like the animated anime kind of girls.
That was the other news this week. Microsoft is pushing Xbox Game Pass in Japan using VTubers, and VTuber stands for like virtual YouTuber, right?
Really?
So there's like a bunch of YouTubers and streamers on Twitch who don't use their real camera feed, but instead rig a 3D model of an anime girl or another creature to their screen and stream as an anime girl. So that could be an option for the podcast. Maybe we could make a VTuber podcast. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that. We'll have to wait and see. Let's see what else. I'm looking for any questions. Doesn't really seem like there are any. Punk says, Jez, since you're a big Pokemon fan, any thoughts on the Switch Pro coming this year?
I don't really know anything too much regarding rumors about the Switch Pro. Obviously, I don't really cover Nintendo stuff, but I do hope that above all other things that it's backwards compatible. If they release a new Switch and expect me to rebuy all those games like they did with the Wii U or whatever, or the Wii, I'm gonna be pissed, and I will literally just quit Nintendo. If Nintendo like releases Switch Pro and says, "Oh yeah, you can't like all the games you bought on the Switch aren't compatible with the Switch Pro," I'm done. I'm done with that platform. I will just stop Nintendo stuff. I don't care if they got Pokemon, whatever. It's 2021. If it ain't backwards compatible, I am done with Nintendo. But hopefully it will be. It would be crazy if they didn't do that. And hopefully it sort of delivers more power. I'm mostly just intrigued how much power they can pack into a handheld, because, you know, I do like
There's only
handheld.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do, right?
Yeah, but you know, Nvidia chips are getting spicy and stuff, so it's interesting.
Sean
I'm
Labrie.
intrigued by this.
Sean Labrie says, "Hey, you guys already have animated characters in the corner. You guys were VTubing before it was hot."
He's got a point there.
Yeah.
You know, technically, we could chop up Sean Labrie's animated characters and rig them to a model, and technically become VTubers already.
Interesting. Elpla says, hey Jez, do you know if Creative Assembly's
no.
unannounced game has something to do with Xbox?
Creative Assembly. I don't know much about that.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like Xbox Global Publishing title potentially.
Yeah, they made Alien, right?
Made Alien Isolation, and they made Halo Wars 2.
What if they're doing Halo Wars 3, man?
No, but 343 already said nah.
Ah, man, but I want Halo Wars 3, man.
Well, maybe one day you'll get it. Darren says, do you think Microsoft's military contract to develop AR will entice them to create VR tech?
I think VR is problematic for Xbox. I think there isn't an example of successful VR in the market right now, frankly. PlayStation VR attach rate is atrocious. It's just awful. Oculus Quest 2, which is the best VR solution we've got yet, honestly isn't selling that well. And even like basically Half-Life 3, Half-Life Alyx, that barely moved the needle for VR sales. I mean, it is steadily growing, but it's so far below niche. You know, it's cool, but it's just super niche right now. And I think Microsoft wouldn't get into the space until it was proven. And honestly, right now, it's not proven. It's really not proven. So until someone can prove that there's a market for VR, except the niche and the hobbyists who are into VR, I don't think we'll see it go anywhere. I really don't.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with you. PlayStation Slave 3.0 says, "What's your reaction when Halo is delayed?" I'm assuming it'll be the same reaction for when Horizon Forbidden West, and God of War get delayed to next year, right? would it be the same reaction you would have?
Man, that could delay Halo Infinite forever, and I wouldn't care.
Yeah, you wouldn't care. I would care though. Like whatever. I just want the game to be a quality product. If they have to delay it to 2022 for it to happen, then so be it. So I don't think it's going to get delayed. If it does get delayed, well, then I think leadership at 343 needs to go at that point. You know. So we'll see.
Yeah, maybe.
XD says everyone wanted Xbox to buy a Sobo and Bloober, but both said they want not to be sold. Same thing can happen on Sega. Yeah, well, Bloober said recently that they weren't interested in being acquired, but it seems like they wanted to increase how much their value they're worth before eventually selling in a few years, maybe. I mean, acquisitions are always tough, right? I mean, there's people saying that Sony was going to buy Bluepoint. The deal was done. It was going to be announced in February, and we're in April, and nothing's been announced yet. These things take time, man. They take time for it to come to get everybody to come to the table and then sign it and agree. Richard says, Rand and Jez, any news on Wolfenstein 3 this year? I think it will be revealed at the Bethesda showcase or the Xbox showcase, which depending on if they do one show or two. And I think it launches next year. What do you think, Jez?
Yeah, that sounds about right to me.
Yep. Mark Marky Kelly says, "Do you think Ubisoft will join Game Pass?" I think so. Yes, I do think the Ubisoft games will hit Game Pass, the back and pat stuff, and that'll be just another reason to get Game Pass. And it's kind of been working out for EA Play. You got EA Play, you got all those games on there, and if you notice, like last month, it started with NBA 2K21 and Madden hitting the service, right? This month, NHL hits the service, and next month, FIFA hits the service. And I wonder if like EA's looking at the data, seeing like how many people are playing on Game Pass. Out of those people playing, do a lot of them buy microtransactions? And could we see this year's Madden, this year's FIFA, this year's NHL instead of coming to Game Pass later? What if Microsoft made a deal to be like, hey, they're in Game Pass and EA Play now on console like day one? Wouldn't that be something if that happened?
That'd be super intriguing, and it would also sort of hint at the idea that Microsoft's really gunning for sports audiences. But I don't know how much that sort of stuff would cost.
Yeah, I mean, I like it could cost a lot, but maybe it's worth it to EA if like they get a check from Microsoft and more people are playing it, and more people are spending microtransactions. You know, it could work like that. Chad says, "You reckon Age of Empires 4 will come to Xbox Series X or S, Jez?"
I honestly don't know. I think like there's a contention. There's a contention about Age of Empires because I think Microsoft is nervous about putting a game on Xbox that requires mouse and keyboard. And I think there's a concern from the Age of Empires team that dumbing down Age's gameplay for a controller would make the game bad. We've seen Halo Wars twice now. We've seen Halo Wars not succeed because it doesn't have the complexity to interest RTS players because it has to be designed for a controller. I would like to think that Microsoft would have the guts to put Age of Empires on Xbox and require a mouse and keyboard. I don't think there's any issue with having a game that requires a mouse and keyboard because different games require different peripherals sometimes. VR games require a VR headset. Connect games require to connect. Like there are games on the Nintendo Switch which require using the waggling sticks. Like that new Zelda game well, maybe not the Zelda game. I think they've added normal controls for that. But there are some games on Nintendo Switch which just don't support the Pro controller and you have to use the waggly sticks, the Joy-Cons or whatever with the stick drift. So, I think Microsoft should do it. I think they should put it on Xbox and have a mouse and keyboard without dumbing down the gameplay. I mean, why not? Just try it. If you can't like try it with your own IP, whose IP can you try it with? You know?
Yep, I
So
totally agree with you. But for now, I would imagine Age of Empires 4 will be on PC only. Hectic World says, "What do you think Microsoft using Surface Go as Switch like xCloud devices? The price is good to start with at 400." I don't know. Is the Surface Go any good? I don't even know what it really looks like, to be honest with you.
sorry, what was the question about Surface Go?
What do you think of Microsoft using the Surface Go as Switch like xCloud device? The price is good to start with at 400.
That it interests me, right? Because the Surface Go is like, I don't know, how big is it? 10 inches or something? 9 inches? Surface Go is like a pretty small tablet PC, and it's pretty powerful for what it is. It's like, you can use Office and stuff like that and browse the web. And it'd be a great device for xCloud. But, there's still that whole contention of, well, I've got to have a controller, I've got to set it all up, blah, 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 blah. It's not as convenient as a Switch. But I do think, like, there has to be a room at Microsoft to make a sort of Windows-based tablet that has Nintendo Switch-like controls, for xCloud, or even for like less demanding native games. Microsoft has all of this engineering skill in house to make a device like this, and they can just be like, it can just be like an aspirational device. Like Surfaces aren't the only PCs you can buy. Microsoft can be like to OEMs, look, this is how you make an xCloud handheld. Now you guys go and do it too. And then you could like have a Dell handheld, you could have a Razer handheld, and other companies can make an xCloud handheld. But you've got to have that aspirational device to show them the way forward, and also to prove that there's a market for that sort of thing. So I think Microsoft should do it. I really do believe Microsoft should make an xCloud handheld to stimulate other companies doing it.
Yeah. RDX Sunifet says Game Pass best way to play games. He also says VCR is less popular than Kinect. HEK Boogie says, what do you guys think of the $500 Xbox headphones? Well, they're really expensive. Hopefully they're really good for that price point, but I've never used any of Bang & Olufsen's products, and I'm pretty happy with my Astray 50s. So I'm kind of, I don't know, like I don't think I'll buy those headsets for 500 because that's a lot of money to spend on a headset to not even know if you're going to like it. But Jez said he's going to be reviewing it on Windows Central whenever he gets his hands on it. But I gotta say, $500 is pretty expensive for a gaming headset. It's gotta be pretty damn good, wouldn't you say, Jez?
I would bloody well hope so. It's an expensive boy, but I'm gonna be brutal in that review because I resent headsets that are overpriced. I really do.
Right.
And a lot of like those Audis Penrose X with the planar drivers, and I'm like, planar magnets are, worth the money or whatever. I didn't think it was that. Didn't sound that much better than like much cheaper headsets. So I'm like salty when the headset's overpriced. So I'm gonna be brutal about the Bang & Olufsen headset. Don't you worry about that.
RDX on a Fed also says they announced Dolby Atmos for Infinite is coming. The Mad Zealot says, do you think Xbox could buy the rights to Wayward Realms, a huge RPG from the guys who created the Elder Scrolls? I've actually never heard of it. But it's like, do you need to buy the rights to that game when you actually have Elder Scrolls? Would be what I would say. Probably not. Game Pass Perry says, why hasn't MLB The Show Twitter page mentioned the Game Pass deal yet? Haven't. I mean,
yeah, they MLB The Show has not tweeted.
It's because that's run by the Sony people. MLB themselves has actually said in a response to Xbox that it's a big W. So that's the thing. Sony's been completely quiet about it. PlayStation hasn't said anything. Nobody from PlayStation said anything. Sony San Diego hasn't said anything. MLB 2020, hasn't said anything. Because honestly, it makes them look bad. Because as soon as MLB 21 says something on Twitter, all the tweets are just going to be like, "Why is it free on Xbox, and why do we have to pay $70 for it?" Unless like they could be doing one of those situations with Xbox Live double price. Remember, they announced it in the morning, and nobody from Xbox or the Xbox accounts didn't tweet the rest of the day because they knew what the response would be. And then later that night, they were like, oh yeah, by the way, we're not doing that. Maybe PlayStation's doing the thing right now where they're like, it's such bad press that they're working out the details and finalizing it to be like, oh, by the way, yeah, it's also coming to PS Plus in April. We love our fans. They get an extra game for PS Plus, right? We'll have to wait and see on that. Kendrick Star says, isn't Kinect is legacy? I can't play Death Central 3. Unfortunately, you can't. The Xbox Series X, and they don't support Kinect. And I say good riddance to bad rubbish. But I understand people's concerns who do own, that hardware and accessories and want to play their games. And that's the one thing Xbox won't support. So that's unfortunate. Let's see what else we got here. XD says, like Tencent buy percent stakes in companies. Why isn't Xbox doing the same?
I think Microsoft philosophically, just like if they buy a company, it's because they feel like they want to add value. Like when they buy Bethesda, they can add value by bringing in Azure and PlayFab and stuff like that, and liberating them from whatever ZeniMax corporate was doing. Because I feel like games like Wolfenstein Youngblood existed purely because a boardroom told them to make it. I think like they're Xbox is adding value by letting Bethesda do what Bethesda does well. Microsoft isn't really necessarily adding value just by by adding a stake in a company and throwing the money around like in a sort of defensive way. I think Microsoft would rather just buy a company outright and add value to that company. What Tencent is doing is just kind of weird and hostile, and I don't like it very much. But that's Tencent. Tencent gonna Tencent, right?
Yeah, Tencent definitely gonna Tencent. No, I think that's all the questions I see in here. So we're gonna end the show. It was pretty damn awesome. Always love podcasting with Jez. It was great. Everybody tuned in for this Friday. Love that we had a lot of stuff to talk about. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed the show, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Follow me and Jez on Twitter. All that info's on screen. And yeah, you got anything to say before we get out of here, Jez?
Nah, man. Marky Kelly says, Jez, you a Brummie. Almost. I'm from the Black Country, which is just north of Birmingham, and we get salty if you call us Brummies, but it's okay. I forgive you. But I'm looking forward to getting back to Outriders. The game seems to be back up in Europe. The servers are still down in the US.
I think they said they tweeted out it's up everywhere except for the US or something.
Yeah, so it's up everywhere except for the US. So I might get back to some Outriders tomorrow. Maybe even I can persuade Rand to play with me. Well, that'd be interesting, wouldn't it? But everyone, rock and roll. Have a nice weekend. Nice Easter. What do Americans do for Easter? Do you have like the chocolate eggs too?
I mean, what I used to as a kid, like Easter egg baskets, Easter egg hunts, chocolate, and all that stuff. But I haven't celebrated Easter in years, so who knows how people celebrate it these days.
When I was in Germany, they did that whole Easter basket thing and egg hunts. But in the UK, we just buy each other chocolate and then that's it.
Yeah.
At least that's as far as I'm aware. But I don't know. But yeah, happy Easter, everyone, and I'll see you next week.
Who knows what's going to be announced next week? But thanks, guys, for tuning in. We'll be back next week, probably on Friday, hopefully. Get back to that schedule. And, yeah, enjoy your weekend and keep it gaming.